Good morning to our online viewers and live audience members. Welcome to Family Research Council's 13th annual ProLifeCon Digital Action Summit, the premier conference for the pro-life digital community. We're very excited that you're here today. My name is Sarah Perry. I am Coalitions Manager for the Family Research Council, but most importantly, I'm a mom, so I'm very excited to have you here for an event that is near and dear to all of our hearts, and that's advancing a culture of life. This morning, we'll be hearing testimony from individuals, activists, and legislators who'll discuss impacts in recent developments in the pro-life movements, as well as how to use social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and more to advance the culture of life. Make sure, for those of you online, to use the hashtag ProLifeCon. And if you're watching online, you're doing so either at our website or through Facebook Live, so be sure to share. For more resources, go to frc.org/life. Note that some of the speakers will be using a microphone for question and answer periods. If you are here in our audience, make sure that you get a hold of one of those microphones so that our online audience can hear you, as well as the individuals who are here. My first guest, I'm very excited to introduce. Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers is the chair of the House Republican Conference, where she helps drive the agenda and communication efforts for the GOP in the House. She is the highest ranking woman in Congress and the longest serving woman in Republican leadership. She chaired the March for Life in 2015, and in that year was instrumental in bringing pro-life groups from across the country together to the House so it would pass the pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act for the benefit of the unborn. As a pro-life leader and a mom of 3, she's already a fan, and we are honored that she is here with us today. Representative Rogers, welcome.
Well, good morning, and thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to share my appreciation to all of you for being here for the 45th annual March for Life. Like previous years, it's really exciting to see people that come from all over the country, different walks of life, to come together to celebrate life. Together, we're reaffirming that every life is worth protecting, that all life is sacred, and that everyone, including the unborn, deserves their God-given chance to reach their full potential. The March for Life is the ultimate day to celebrate life, celebrate all that it has to offer, that life is truly where we find joy and hope. So I just want to most of all say thank you to everyone that's marching. When I see the tens of thousands of young people, moms, dads, and religious leaders, and others who are marching their way to the Supreme Court, I'm amazed at and reminded that each of us has a story. And for me, that story is being a proud mom of 3, including our oldest, Cole, that was born with that extra 21st chromosome. And yeah, I remember when we received that news, Brian and I received that news, it wasn't what we had ever expected. And we were given a long list of challenges, potential heartache that we would face. And now, 10 years later, Cole is just this amazing kid. He's working his way through 5th grade. He lights up the room. People are drawn to him. He's involved in Cub Scouts. He loves sports. He especially loves basketball, and we were quite proud. On Saturday, he scored 3 points in the basketball game. He's living a life full of potential. And stories like our families of kids beating the odds and reminding us that every life is a precious gift. And that's why I love the March for Life. Every story is an opportunity for the pro-life movement to grow. And as online activists, you play a vital role in sharing them. It's not lost on me that it's a tall order. I remember the Doritos commercial that pro-abortion groups called controversial because it featured an animated baby on an ultrasound machine. Even language in the tax writing committee, when we were debating tax reform, we were seeking to expand the tax-free savings accounts for college to the unborn, and that was called dangerous. And right now, the House is considering legislation to protect children that are born alive after a failed abortion. And the left, once again, is accusing us of joining the war on women. This rhetoric is keeping both sides from having an honest discussion about humanity, the humanity of the unborn, and it is only further dividing us as people. It's pushing the left and the right so far apart on life issues, it begs the question, how exactly do we break through and use this pro-life platform to bring Americans together, particularly on the internet? How do we move past us versus them to foster those constructive conversations? I believe that the answer really is in going outside our comfort zone and identifying what ties us together as people and as Americans. Over the last year, I've held a number of unity dinners in my district in Eastern Washington. And the purpose of these unity dinners are to bring diverse people together, to listen, put those cell phones away for a dinner, and to build trust, even when we disagree. And I've been reminded through these dinners that everyone has a story. There are stories of hope and love. There's stories of deep pain and heartache. Every story is a chance for us to come together and develop a deeper understanding of one another. The shortest distance between two people is their story. And I believe that this marks an incredible opportunity for all of us. And I encourage you to keep up the hard work of telling the stories of new moms, the medical miracles, the children with disabilities who are making a lasting contribution to the world. I challenge you to find ways to reach those who aren't yet friends of the pro-life community. Lead by example and think about how you can foster that welcoming, courageous conversation. You know, it's those stories that really have the power to open hearts and minds so that we can change the culture and change the culture to one that values life. That's how we're going to identify the common ground that unites us and will pave the way for this truly to be the pro-life generation. So it's upon all of us. And I thank you again for being here. And may God bless you all during today's march and always. Great to see you.
Would you like to take any questions from the audience?
I'd be open to
any questions for the representative?
Yes. Yes.
Been a great support to us at Kids Keep Infants with Down Syndrome that's celebrating a 10th anniversary. We met here 10 years ago and went to National Right to Life. And you've always been with us. Thank you so much for that. I understand there's 2 bills about limiting abortions to 20 weeks, that there's been a difficulty reconciling between which one. Has that been resolved?
Well, we're continuing to work on it. I was proud that last Congress we were able to take that action. It was mentioned 2 years ago. I had chaired the March for Life, and we had that same situation. The House has passed this bill in the past to limit abortions after 20 weeks, a pain-capable bill, recognizing that these are babies that can feel pain after this 20 weeks. We're hopeful that we can get this language agreed upon by the House and the Senate, that we could ultimately get this onto the President's desk. I also want to mention that today the House is passing the bill that would prohibit abortions when there's a baby that's born alive, that has survived an abortion procedure. And again, it is our goal to have a big vote in the House. It is legislation that has enjoyed bipartisan support in the past. So we hope that we can get that bipartisan support in the House with a big vote and send it over to the Senate and ultimately get it onto the President's desk. We know we have a pro-life president, we have a pro-life vice president, and this is a time for us to get these bills that we've been working on for so long onto the President's desk. Thank you.
One more question for the Congresswoman. Any other questions? Congresswoman,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I guess there are some of us here, special needs moms in the audience. We cannot tell you what it means to have such intrinsic value brought to the work of the pro-life cause. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, another one of my favorite women is coming up now, Representative Marsha Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee. She is a fighter, she is politically incorrect, and she has been a tireless advocate for the pro-life cause in Congress. In October of 2015, she was picked to handle the lead investigative panel on infant lives, which, as you know, investigated Planned Parenthood's horrific harvesting and sale of baby body parts. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Representative Blackburn today.
Thank you so much. And I am thrilled to step in with you this morning, and I know we also have some of our bloggers that are streaming and watching this. Why don't I start right there with the Select Investigative Panel? I was honored to chair that panel, and we were given a 1-year time frame, 1 year, to go in and investigate what was or was not happening with the relationship between Planned Parenthood and these third-party entities that were selling baby body parts and fetal tissues. Now, the reason the House took this investigation up is because it is illegal to sell baby body parts in the United States of America. You cannot do this. You can donate for research, but if you make 1 penny of profit, you are outside of the law. U.S. Code 42289G2. So this is something that we were looking to see if they were or were not inside the law or outside of the law. And we had a 1-year time frame. Now, I had a fantastic committee of pro-life Republicans that were on the majority side of that dais. And let me tell you, they really rose to the challenge and did a wonderful job. And through this year, we issued 40 subpoenas to different abortion clinics and entities and to these third-party sellers. Now, as you can imagine, when you issue a subpoena to somebody that thinks they may be skirting the law a little bit, you're going to get a lot of redactions when that information comes back in. But we persisted with this and continued to pull information and build our case. We had held hearings, we did depositions, and at the end of the year we issued a report. You can pull up the entire 412-page report. It's on my website, blackburn.house.gov. And as we issued that report, based on what we found from the subpoenas and the hearings and the depositions, we issued a total of 15 criminal referrals. Now, 11 of those went to different states. 4 of them went to DOJ. And about 6 weeks ago, we got a letter from DOJ. Yes, indeed, they are taking up all 4 federal criminal referrals, and they are investigating those. And the FBI is taking up the entire body of work, all 15 criminal referrals, and looking at these. So as we come to the 45th annual March for Life, we have Planned Parenthood and these third-party vendors under a federal criminal investigation by DOJ or FBI. And that has happened because of the work that pro-lifers have supported. And the work that we've been able to do, the body of evidence that we were able to build and then turn over to DOJ and turn over to the different states' attorneys general. It is compelling work. As you all know, we were able to get a decision in Orange County, California that was very favorable and ended up closing down an abortion clinic. So that work has yielded fruit. We've also had some legislation on the House floor. We've passed out of the House and we're waiting on our good friends in the Senate as we have a tendency to do around here in D.C. a lot. But we're waiting on our good friends in the Senate to take up the legislation that says on Title X funds, if you do abortion, you're not going to get the money. And we think that that money should be going to the women's health clinics so that it is providing health care for women in underserved areas and underserved populations. So we look forward to seeing that move in the Senate. So we've also got another bill, and I'm watching the clock because I've got to go over to the House floor. My legislation, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. The Born Alive Act will go to the floor at 9 o'clock, which means as the bill's sponsor, I've got to be on the floor. And I got to be there to make certain that all goes well with the debate. About 10:30 this morning, we should be voting on that legislation. So I know you all will be watching that. What the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Act is going to do will be to put in place, well, first of all, let me say that it is there to protect these mothers and babies that survive an abortion. And it is there to hold accountable healthcare providers. And if this baby survives that abortion, that baby deserves the same standard of care as any other birth. And it requires those healthcare professionals to provide that standard of care and immediately get that baby and that mother to a hospital. So the bill will put in place criminal penalties for healthcare providers that do not provide that standard of care. It will allow those mothers a private right of action, and it says that those mothers cannot be prosecuted. So those are that's the bill and the provisions within that bill that we're going to have on the floor today. So I just want to say thank you to you all for being here. We are thrilled that you continue to come in and that you stay with the cause of supporting life. And many of you who are streaming today, who are in churches and with community groups around the country, we thank you for the work that you're doing and the awareness that you're bringing to the issue and to the cause of life, because it is the first protected right, the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So we thank you for being here. We thank you for being so diligent in the fight through the last several years, because it does yield fruit. It's the reason, because of pro-lifers around the country, it's the reason we were able to have a select investigative committee, put all the resources of the House behind investigating what Planned Parenthood and big abortion and these body sellers were doing. It is the reason we were able to keep that committee pushing forward for the full year that we had to do this work, which, as you all know, in congressional time, a year's not very much time. And it's the reason we were able to get those criminal referrals. And it's the reason we have those investigations going on. And because of pro-lifers here and around the country, it's the reason we have support in the House to bring forward bills like the Born Alive Survivors Act and push it to the floor for a vote and then send it over to the Senate today. So thank you all for being here. We wish you well. Looks like you're going to have good weather and favor and sunshine and above freezing temperatures for the weekend. So be well, be healthy, and keep doing good work. Thank you so much.
Boy, it is encouraging to hear what the investigative panel resulted in, because we heard a lot about it when it took place. I don't think all of us followed what the eventual results were with specificity, and we'll be praying for success on today's vote, not coincidentally during the 45th annual March for Life. So we're very excited and we're very grateful to Representative Blackburn for her time today, and we wish her well. We have next up today Ryan Bomberger, and Ryan is a creative professional. He is a citizen journalist, and he is co-founder of the Radiance Foundation. He and his wife, Bethany, co-founded the Radiance Foundation, which is an educational nonprofit organization dedicated to the belief that every human being has irreplaceable and intrinsic value. So it's my pleasure to welcome today Ryan.
Thank you. Good morning. Everybody wide awake? Okay, that didn't sound convincing, but it's great to be here. I'm Ryan Bomberger, Chief Creative Officer of the Radiance Foundation, organization that my wife, Bethany, who's actually in here, right here, she's back there, just wave to her, my favorite person on the planet. We love, if we can have the presentation up, that'd be great. We love illuminating the truth, and it is up right above my head. This is what we do. We fight factophobia. Anybody know what factophobia is? It's probably self-explanatory. It's the fear of fact. Man, you're a good man. You're on the ball this early in the morning. See, we have a country that says that we face all these kinds of phobias. You could probably fill in the blank with what kind of phobias supposedly we face, but there is a real and present dangerous phobia that has infected not just our mainstream media, which we love to affectionately call what? Fake news. Yes. It's infected our institutions of higher learning, which I wonder what they really mean by higher sometimes. And we also have our churches that have been infected with this. And the sad thing is there's brokenness that results from the unwillingness of Christians to engage and to speak the truth. As you can see underneath, it says, truth ain't hate, let love illuminate. Just say it with me. Say, truth ain't hate, let love illuminate. So this is what we do. I consider myself a factivist. In case you don't know what that is, this might explain a little bit.
Planned Parenthood does not at all profit from fetal tissue donation.
Planned Parenthood has been involved in selling the body parts of the babies that they abort for decades now at this point.
Yes, thank God for David Delight and Sandra Merritt, who were courageous enough to actually do the job of mainstream media, something called journalism. And I'm really grateful for them. They're factivists. I'm a factivist, and hopefully you will consider yourself a factivist too. But I want to talk to you just briefly about the social injustice of abortion. And there's so many different avenues you can go when you talk about this, but I'm just going to raise a few questions. When we talk about social injustice, oftentimes on college campuses, I've been able to speak different places like Harvard and Princeton. It's amazing. They talk about social justice, but yet the issue of the killing of innocent life never seems to come up. And yet it is the most violent form of social injustice. So when we talk about social injustice of abortion, I have to ask the question, what about human rights? Because that's always the question. And I find it interesting. There's an organization that you may be familiar with that is deeply religious. It's located in New York City. And when I say deeply religious, I don't mean in a spiritual sense, but deeply religious about its secularism. But you may be familiar with it, the United Nations. Anybody ever hear of it? The United Nations, you know, it's not exactly considered a right-wing organization, but yet they have these powerful pro-life statements that are embedded in their founding documents. If you look at the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was passed in 1948 as a result of which horrific event in history? World War II, the Holocaust. And so what is so powerful, if you read the UN Declaration of Human Rights and the preamble, it says, considering that in accordance with the principles proclaimed in the Charter of the United Nations, recognition of the inherent dignity, and I just want to pause there for a moment. Inherent. When does inherent begin? At conception. When you begin, when you exist. Inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And I love this. In Article 3, in this founding document, charter document, it says, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Everyone. They don't play the game of semantics, every person, because every human being is a person, regardless of age and stage. But then there's another document from the UN, powerfully pro-life, and this is why non-governmental organizations, NGOs, want so desperately to change some of this wording, want so desperately to cast abortion as a human right. But yet, the founding document from one of the many founding documents of the UN gives a whole different perspective. You look at the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which was passed in 1959 and then reaffirmed in 1989. I love these words. It says in this convention, in this document, quote, bearing in mind that as indicated in the Declaration of the Rights of the Child, by reason of his physical and mental immaturity, needs special safeguards and care, including appropriate legal protection before as well as after birth. That's the UN. It's not a right to life group. It's not Americans United for Life. It's the UN. And that's why they have this dissonance where you have so many pushing for abortion as a human right. And then I have to ask the question, well, what about women's rights? Interesting, because if you go to founding feminists, not the feminists of the faux feminists of the Women's March, they don't really qualify as founding feminists. But when you go to true feminism, like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, I find this fascinating. If you go to their periodical that was called The Revolution, in it, they specifically say abortion is child murder. These are founding feminists. So today's so-called feminists can learn a lot from our founding feminists. This is the take they had. But yet you had someone like Margaret Sanger, who's touted all the time as, you know, leading feminist and the mother of the birth control crusade, the mother of Planned Parenthood. Margaret Sanger, proof positive that when you grow up in brokenness, you have choices throughout your life, whether you continue on in that brokenness or whether you break out of that. And she never did. Her solution to brokenness in the world was to eliminate the broken people, or to eliminate those that she thought would become broken. And it's interesting because she is touted all the time as the savior of women because of birth control. And she was a brilliant individual. She was duplicitous. She would say one thing, of course, in private, and then she'd say a different thing in public. But it's interesting. If you read her books, you can't really take anything that she says out of context. People will say, particularly those who defend Margaret Sanger and defend Planned Parenthood, oh, but these are things, you take them out of context. No, I don't know how you take this out of context. She's defining what birth control is, and she says, birth control itself, often denounced as a violation of natural law, is nothing more or less than the facilitation of the process of weeding out the unfit, of preventing the birth of defectives or of those who will become defective. And it's amazing because that would include a whole, large group of individuals. They would write off certain groups, those who were born out of wedlock, those who were incarcerated, those who were physically disabled in some way. And then they have this category called feeble-minded, which quite honestly, I personally think would include some of Congress or most of Congress today, but that's a whole different thing. And it's interesting because you had that particular worldview, which people say, well, that was the dominant worldview at that time. Well, no. There were competing worldviews. Not everyone was a racist during the early part of the 20th century or throughout it. It's completely untrue. And what I find fascinating is that there are individuals that many people don't even know about who embodied true feminism. And here's one individual who truly did, Dr. Mildred Jefferson.
It is unconscionably unfair that the victim selected on which to test the social remedy of expendable lives is the most defenseless member of the human family, the unborn child who cannot escape, cannot riot in the streets, and cannot vote. As a woman, I am ashamed that the voices raised loudest in this demand to destroy the unborn children are those of other women.
We just get a hand clap for the late Dr. Mildred Jefferson, someone that everyone should know. Every school should be teaching, she should be in history books, but we know how history books go. And then you have to ask yourself the question when you talk about the social injustice of abortion, what about your rights? Why does Planned Parenthood spend millions of dollars defeating every single effort to inform women. All the women's right to know bills, all the notification or consent, parental notification consent, waiting periods. They fight on every level to prevent information because they don't trust women enough with the truth. They don't trust the public enough with the truth. All they keep doing is, you know, this game of deflection. Abortion's only 3% of our services. Anybody ever hear that? 3% of our services, right? Which is interesting because then they say, but look at all the other things that we do. Just to kind of put this into context, I don't care what business you are. If 3% of the time you're killing human beings, it's always wrong. I don't care if it's 0.00003% of the time. But yet they get away with this. And the mainstream media always touts all these other services as if, I guess it comes down to no seeming amount of beneficence makes up for the fact that you're killing human beings 3% of the time. In fact, according to their last annual report, they killed 321,384 precious human beings. And yet, mainstream media, which, you know, they're supposed to report and let us decide, or perhaps that's only one network's slogan, but it certainly doesn't apply to all mainstream media. But we actually do this. In fact, you can go online, and this is great for those who want to feel equipped and help to inform others. They're great. There's great content that you can go to if you go to radiance.life and sharing the fact sheets and the memes, but this is one of them. We actually looked at all the services that Planned Parenthood provides, and every single major medical service to women has been plummeting at Planned Parenthood. As you can see here, breast cancer screenings, which they're always talking about, they're down 62%, Pap tests down 72%, prenatal care, which barely even exists, down 30%, and actually since 2009, it's down 81%. I mean, just plummeting. But shouldn't the mainstream media be concerned at all that all these major medical services to an organization that receives $500 million of taxpayer money every year, shouldn't they be concerned about that? But see, they don't trust us enough. Apparently, we don't have the right to know these things. And as a parent of four, I have 4 awesome kiddos, I'm concerned about Planned Parenthood's presence in schools. We have some great fact sheets that are called top 10 reasons to keep Planned Parenthood out of your local school. Of course, the number one reason being they kill human beings. But the other 9 reasons are ones that should deeply concern any parent, even someone who perhaps, disturbingly, is not moved enough by reason number 1. But there are a lot of different reasons why. For instance, they promote promiscuity. On their teen Tumblr page where they're asked, is it wrong to be promiscuous? Planned Parenthood's response is the number of sexual partners you have doesn't say anything about your morals, about your personality, about your character, really. There's nothing bad or unhealthy about having a big number of sexual partners. Apparently, they've never heard of STDs or unintended pregnancies. But this is what happens when $500 million goes to an unaccountable organization. So apparently, our rights don't matter. Then I have to ask the question, which this is always the comfortable one, what about racism? See, an organization that was birthed in eugenic racism and elitism, Planned Parenthood, which never severed itself from its own DNA. They still celebrate Marcus Sanger, who was the leading eugenicist. They still celebrate it every day. But this is interesting. When you ask the question, what about racism? One of the recent tweets from Planned Parenthood just says it all. It says, if you're a black woman in America, it's statistically safer to have an abortion than to carry a pregnancy to term or give birth. Could you imagine if President Trump tweeted that? What kind of response do you think there would have been? I mean, you would have people, white supremacy and racism, but because Planned Parenthood tweets something like this, silence. Silence from mainstream media. What is the ultimate end of racism? Throughout American history, the ultimate end was death. Abortion is death. And in the black community, it happens 5 times higher. In New York City, where Planned Parenthood was birthed, more black babies are aborted than born alive. For every 1,000 born alive, 1,101 are aborted. The only demographic where there is more induced deaths than births. And yet people call this reproductive justice. And that's why when we first started our organization, we decided we were going to take the 2 easiest topics, race and abortion, and combine them in a billboard campaign in Atlanta, working with Catherine Davis and Georgia Right to Life. And we placed billboards, 80 billboards, and dealt with this head-on. First public ad campaign dealing with abortion's hugely disproportionate impact in the black community. And, well, you'll get an idea of the billboards that we placed. let's just say the reaction was insane. There was a media frenzy. I mean, New York Times put out an article, and then it was everywhere. Probably the most media-covered pro-life billboard campaign ever out there. And it was interesting because they didn't know how to handle me. I didn't fit their narrative. Brown guy, pro-life, adopted, and they tried to demonize me as much as they could. In fact, I'll never forget there was an NPR story done, and they were interviewing me offline, and it was such a long interview, and I kept feeling like they're trying to find something. They're digging to find something to demonize me. 45 minutes in this interview. Then the show called All Things Considered, which apparently didn't consider the truth to be part of the program, had a 3-minute and 27-second program that omitted, it was about the campaign. I designed the campaign organization, released it, omitted me entirely from the news story about the campaign. But this is what fake news does all the time. But it was such a powerful learning lesson. And we just have to understand, as factivists, we can circumvent mainstream media. We have the power of social media, even though there are times that Twitter tries to censor us and ban us, and Facebook does the same, because, you know, I love when the self-proclaimed deities of diversity show zero tolerance for ideological diversity. But you keep on fighting. In fact, we're fighting again. We're getting ready to release some billboards, and we're dealing with, for instance, in Ohio, the state's largest abortion facility called Preterm placed 16 billboards throughout Cleveland, which is predominantly black, 52% black. Put up billboards that said abortion is, and then there's a fill in the blank. Abortion is sacred. Abortion is a blessing. Abortion is necessary. Abortion is justice. Kind of makes your blood boil. And so we're responding with a series of billboards, but this is one of them. This is what abortion is. Abortion is systemic racism. SomeBlackLivesMatter.com. Taking on the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which announced solidarity. I mean, you can't proclaim that Black Lives Matter and then partner with the leading killer of Black lives. They announced solidarity with Planned Parenthood. So we're just calling them out. And this is what we have to do. We don't have the luxury of being silent. So when I talk about the social injustice of abortion, there are many issues that are inextricably tied to it. But it doesn't matter what those issues are if we choose to be silent about the most prevalent form of injustice in our society today. Thank you.
Ryan, before you leave, if people want to connect with you on social media, what's the best way to connect with you?
Radiance.life, www.radiance.life. And we'd love to hear from you. You can see all the original content that we create, videos, the memes, print, stuff to equip you to engage in these tough conversations.
Excellent. Well, for those of us who are in the trenches, and that is everybody who is on our online audience right now, because we are all grassroots activists, what an encouragement to hear what you and your wife Bethany are doing. So thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a joy to be here. God bless.
So now we get to visit another one of my favorite people. It is FRC Action's own Patrina Mosley, and she is out live on the mall today as the crowds have started to gather for the 45th annual March for Life. So we're going to connect up with her and see what she has to say about the atmosphere out there.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. It is a beautiful day out here. Chilly, but beautiful. And right now, as you can see behind me, there's not a crowd just yet, but you just wait. This mall is going to be packed with millions of people who are passionate about protecting life. Even this morning, people were gathering on the metro and groups, matching colors, matching hats, and there was so much excitement in the air. Also, you can't see it right now, but they're setting up a little bit behind this camera here. They're getting ready for a concert, getting ready for Paul Ryan to speak today. And also, in most recent news, as some of you already know, President Trump will be live streaming in to the March for Life rally. This has been, once again, the biggest administration support we've seen for the pro-life movement, and we cannot be happier. It's going to be an exciting time, and really it's pro-life activists like you all there at the ProLifeCon who are really changing hearts and changing minds. And that is what is placing people here from all across the country to gather in the cold to protect life. So we're excited to watch the crowd come in and to watch them set up. And yeah, it's going to be a great day.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Patrina. We're going to check in with you again later. So thanks to Patrina for providing us with a live update. And We'll go back to her in a little bit, and we'll get a sense of what the crowds are doing and how people are responding to the 45th Annual March for Life. But before we do that, I'm going to bring up Abby Johnson. Abby Johnson is the founder of And Then There Were None. It is a ministry designed to assist abortion clinic workers who have left the industry in the business of abortion. And to date, the ministry has helped over 300 former clinic workers leave the business and the big money of abortion. So let's welcome Abby and hear the latest work she's doing in the pro-life community. Welcome, Abby.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. I have got to update my bios all across the internet world because some bios say that I have 5 children, but I actually have 7. And I know. I tell people we became pro-life and we couldn't stop breeding. And then some bios say we've had 150 workers leave, some say 300. The real number, and the reason it's hard to keep it updated is because the number is changing so quickly. The real number of abortion clinic workers that we have helped leave the abortion industry is 419. And that 419 also includes 7 full-time abortion doctors who have left their abortion business and now work in life-affirming clinics. I'm going to talk about something today that is maybe hard for some people to talk about, hard for some people to accept, but I think it's something that we in the pro-life movement need to discuss more. Proverbs 18:21 says, "The tongue has the power of life and death." And today we live in a very online culture, and so I would submit to you today that the keyboard also has the power of life and death. Deuteronomy 30:19 says, "This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life so that you and your children may live." We need to be better at policing our own movement. I oftentimes become discouraged by what I see on the internet from some pro-life activists. And no, it is not pro-choice people, or trolls as people will call them. I hate that word. Pro-choice people posing as pro-lifers. Guys, that doesn't happen. I wish I had $1 for every time somebody said that that's probably what's happening, but that's not happening. You see, as someone who worked in the abortion industry for 8 years, I can tell you very confidently that that is not happening. The pro-choice movement doesn't have to go online and act as uncharitable pro-lifers because we have enough of those in our own movement doing it for us. You have the power in your words, in your actions, to help someone discern whether they will choose life or death. I'm often criticized on my social media pages. I have probably not as large a following as some people that are presenting today, but around 300,000 people on combined social media pages. And I'm often criticized because I am quick to block people on my pro-life pages. And people say, what about freedom of speech? Well, there is no freedom of speech on my Facebook page. There is no freedom of speech on my Twitter feed. There is no freedom of speech anywhere on my pro-life social media pages. My social media pages are not the Constitution, and you are not guaranteed freedom of speech. Nor should you be. Because people are watching you. The pro-choice movement is watching you. Women who have had abortions, they're watching you. When you call them murders, they're watching. You're impeding their ability to heal. When women who are considering abortion are told that they should just simply They should have kept their legs closed. Or maybe if they didn't make such poor decisions, they wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. They're watching you. Your words can be life or death for their child. When you say that God would never forgive a woman who's had an abortion, not only are these women watching you, but God is watching you. In my particular interest, abortion clinic workers, past and present, they're watching. When you call them baby killers, when you say that they should burn in hell, they see that. When Kermit Gosnell was on trial for his unspeakable crimes against women and their children, I was appalled at the comments that came from pro-lifers, even people that I knew. I hope they die. I'm praying for them to go to hell. These are the things that I heard over and over again from pro-lifers. I was appalled. The hate that was spewed on social media was absurd and certainly not the best of who we are. Certainly not representative of the majority of us. And I was watching. I was watching those comments. And I became very burdened by what I saw. So I began writing. And I began writing letters to every person that had been on trial and was in prison for the crimes that they were involved with in Gosnell's clinic. And I wrote so many letters. And I prayed over every one that I sent, praying that just one day I would be able to speak to one of them, to let them know that what was being said of them was not indicative of the entire pro-life movement. That there were some of us who genuinely cared about them, who cared about their lives, who cared that they once again had abundant life, and who cared about their soul and their salvation. Sometimes you do things and you hope and pray that the outcome will turn out like you want, but you never know if it will happen. And I had been writing letters for almost 3 years. Had never received a response. And by this time, I didn't expect to. But I continued to pray for them every day. And then one day, my phone rang. And on the other line, I heard the words, "Hi, Miss Abby. My name is Adrienne Moten. And I would like to connect with you." And my heart skipped a beat. Because this is what I had been praying for. This is what I had been hoping for. And here was my answered prayer on the other end of that line. Adrienne had been watching. She had been watching you in the pro-life movement. She had been watching the things that you had been saying about her. She had been watching the presentations with her face, with her mugshot put on them. She had been seeing what you had been writing. And she was looking for hope. Hope that she wasn't sure she would ever be able to find in the pro-life movement. And at this time, if it's okay with her, I would like to invite Adrienne to come stand with me. I love you. You have the ability, pro-life movement, to change the narrative. Yes, we are pro-life, but we must always be pro-love. And when love comes first, life will naturally follow. People are watching. Choose well. Thank you so much.
Abby, before you go, how can people connect with you on social media? We'd love to have some of our online audience, and there's a good portion of the people who are going to be eager to follow you and follow your developments. How can they connect with you online?
Sure. So I've got several different social media pages you can follow. One is my page, Abby Johnson. If you type in Abby Johnson anywhere, I'll be the first one that pops up. And then also you can follow our ministry, helping abortion clinic workers leave at And Then There Were None, Pro-Life Outreach. And our website is abortionworker.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Abby. What a joy to have you here. What a great reminder that it isn't just about pundits and about policy, but at the very bottom, it is about people. It is about the born and the unborn. And getting a chance to actually see one of those transformative stories was really fabulous. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. My next guest has a name I think all of you will recognize, and he is a gentle spirit with a warrior soul. David Daleiden is the founder of the Center for Medical Progress, a group of citizen journalists who are dedicated to monitoring and reporting on medical ethics. In 2016, he received here the Digital Pro-Life Pioneer Award at ProLifeCon for his work in uncovering Planned Parenthood's list of horribles that was the catalyst for real congressional national change. We are so glad to have him back. Ladies and gentlemen, David Daleiden.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, and thank you to my friends at the Family Research Council for having me back here at this event again this year. It's always wonderful to be here with all of you at the March for Life here in Washington, D.C., which is the largest and longest sustained civil rights demonstration in our country's history. And it's wonderful to be able to share that here with all of you again this year. I'm being told that my microphone is not on. Do we have audio now? Move the microphone up. All right, can we hear me now? Okay, good. All right, we have audio now. I'll just repeat real fast. Thank you so much to my friends at the Family Research Council for having me back again this year and for reminding me when my microphone may or may not be working. You can tell they really care. And it's wonderful to be here with all you guys at the March for Life again. This is the biggest and longest sustained civil rights demonstration in our nation's history, and it's wonderful to be able to be part of that with all of you here today to advocate for our unborn brothers and sisters. Many of you are, of course, familiar with the undercover videos that I've published through the Center for Medical Progress that document Planned Parenthood's senior level leadership callously negotiating the harvesting and sale of tiny aborted baby hearts, lungs, livers, and brains for profit in violation of federal law. Those videos have over 13 million views on YouTube alone, and they've been viewed many other dozens of millions of times by people in other more traditional media. They have brought Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion provider in our country, to the brink of being just one vote away in the US Senate from losing $500 million in taxpayer funding to their abortion empire every year. And you heard from Congressman Marsha Blackburn earlier this morning that it's because of those videos that there were two very good in-depth, long-term congressional investigations that were done to follow up on the allegations exposed by the videos. One investigation done by the Senate Judiciary Committee, the other done by the House Select Investigative Panel. Each of those investigations yielded final reports that were hundreds of pages long, with hundreds of documentary evidence supporting them, corroborating all of the findings of the videos and even expanding them to show far greater and deeper systemic criminality within Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry. And finally, it was announced a month ago, at the beginning of December, that now the Department of Justice is following up on the criminal referrals made by those congressional investigations, and Planned Parenthood and their business partners in the harvesting and sale of the body parts of our unborn brothers and sisters are now under federal investigation. And it was also announced, just a day after the federal investigation, that some of Planned Parenthood's longest-term business partners in the harvesting and sale of aborted baby body parts in Southern California, in Orange County, my home. Two of Planned Parenthood's oldest business partners, the Da Vinci companies, Da Vinci Biosciences and DV Biologics, pleaded guilty to everything they were accused of in harvesting and selling baby body parts in a $7.8 million settlement with the District Attorney of Orange County. So Planned Parenthood is certainly on the brink now, and their criminality is being exposed. We're definitely winning, but because of that reason, Planned Parenthood is battening down the hatches. They are playing every last card that they have left in order to sustain themselves as an organization and as an abortion empire. And they're doing everything they can to try to make sure that the evidence and the information about their criminality and their great human rights atrocities against our unborn brothers and sisters remain under wraps, don't see the light of day, and doesn't percolate into the general public consciousness. The single best tool that Planned Parenthood still has at their disposal is a federal judge, an Obama appointee, Judge William Orrick in San Francisco. Planned Parenthood and their proxies, the National Abortion Federation, have these twin meritless federal lawsuits going on against me and CMP right now in front of him in federal court. Judge Orrick is someone who helped open and run and fund a Planned Parenthood clinic in San Francisco for many years, and yet he continues to be the judge who is hearing these cases. He has not recused himself yet, although we're demanding that the appeals court order his recusal on account of the fact that the Planned Parenthood clinic that he helped found and fund and run in San Francisco is part of the same Planned Parenthood affiliate that is now under criminal investigation for harvesting and selling baby body parts with STEM Express, and is one of the Planned Parenthood affiliates that's suing me in his courtroom. It's outrageous. He needs to recuse himself, and it's because of those cases that there's still this outrageous unconstitutional gag order over the remaining undercover videos that CMP has yet to release. That represents about 50% of the footage that we ever gathered. And once that footage can finally come to light and finally be revealed, it's some of the most damning and incriminating footage that we ever recorded of Planned Parenthood's senior leadership and medical directors at the annual meeting trade shows of the National Abortion Federation. And once that footage can come out, it will be the final confirmation that Planned Parenthood and their business partners are totally guilty. And that is why everything they're doing is meant to prevent the release of those videos. They're marshaling all of the power of the state of California to come against me and against my fellow undercover investigators at CMP. They have a series of completely bogus charges that they've filed in state court in San Francisco. You know, it's interesting, the Attorney General of the state of California, formerly it was Kamala Harris, now U.S. Senator, now it's Javier Becerra. The Attorney General agrees with me that there are crimes depicted on the videotapes of Planned Parenthood's leadership that we filmed at crowded public restaurant spaces in California. But the Attorney General thinks that the crimes that are shown on those videotapes are the fact of recording the conversations about the criminal sale of baby body parts that's now under investigation by the Federal Department of Justice. They think the crime is not on what's being said on those tapes. They think the crime is the recording, which is ridiculous. This is a recording of public conversations happening in open public spaces on topics that are now under criminal investigation by the DOJ. But Planned Parenthood is basically treating and using the Attorney General of the state of California as one more hired law firm to do their bidding. And that will continue to be exposed as these cases move forward and as we continue to fight back. And that's why it's so important right now, when Planned Parenthood is on the brink, they're treating this issue like it could be the end of their organization and the end of their abortion empire. It's so important that we treat it the same way, and that no matter how much they try to cover up the videos, to silence the evidence, to pretend like all of this never happened, we have to keep on getting the information out there. And that requires a lot of new and innovative efforts, like the sorts of things that you'll talk about and hear from people at the Digital Action Summit. CMP currently has in development new ways of presenting the undercover videos in a way that is targeted and streamlined for social media platforms, including Facebook. And so I want to play just a little bit of, I want to play an example for you of that new format that's in development right now, if we could cue the video. And it may seem a little counterintuitive. Part of the optimization of these presentations for Facebook and for other social media platforms is going into the insights that you can gather on views of videos that are shared on social media, they're posted on Facebook. Most people are probably familiar with the fact that you'll be scrolling through your Facebook feed and you'll have these videos that automatically start playing as you're going through. They don't start playing with sound. The only thing that's really available to you as a viewer is the visual. It's a little bit of a different format and a different approach than what makes for a good kind of for a good audio-visual kind of holistic presentation that you might see on television or in more traditional media formats. So it's a little counterintuitive. But what we discovered looking at the insights on CMP's social media and on video work that we've publicized natively through social media formats so far is that 85% of the people who are viewing videos via their Facebook feed, which is an increasing number of people, 85% of them are watching them without sound. And you lose 90% of the viewers within the first 10 seconds. So that gives you two really critical insights for optimization for social media playback. First, you're going to want to make sure it's not dependent on sound whatsoever, which means more captioning, bigger captioning, more visual stimulus right from the very beginning, and needing to get the core messaging out there within the first 10 seconds of the clip as somebody's just scrolling through in their feed. So that's something that we're continuing to optimize, and we're continuing to tweak and figure out how to use those insights to make sure that those videos get out there all the more in the coming months and in the coming months of 2018. So thank you guys so much for all of your dedication, all of your passion, all of your support over the past 2.5 years. We're at a very critical time in our nation's history, a very critical time in the struggle to defend our unborn brothers and sisters, and I'm so honored to be part of it here with you guys here in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life. So thank you so much.
David, before you go, how can people connect with you? We know your website is centerformedicalprogress.org. What about your social media handles?
Definitely. You can always find all the latest information on what's going on with us at centerformedicalprogress.org or cmp.org. You can find us on Facebook under Center for Medical Progress, and you can also find us on Twitter under Center for Medical Progress, as well as my Twitter account, David Leiden. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you all soon at the march.
David, what a pleasure to have you here. I'm reminded of a story about another David who was up against a very large, seemingly inconquerable foe, but how nice to be reminded that truth always hits its mark. So our next guest is Anna Hodusky. This is not the first time she's been here at FRC's ProLifeCon. After her college graduation, Anna spent 15 months running and biking 3,000 miles. So just take that in for a moment. She has had speaking engagements totaling 60 plus across the country, and she did this to raise awareness for the pro-life movement. She's inspiring people all across the story with her physical stamina and her willingness to put herself out there for the cause of the sanctity of life. So please welcome Anna Hodusky. Video first, please. We're going to have a little bit of a short introductory video.
Since 1973, when Roe v. Wade was passed, there are 58 million children who have been victims to abortion. That is 3,300 children every single day. And that is one child that will die every 30 seconds. Abortion in America is the biggest issue that we face today. So many people don't know that the most innocent and the most vulnerable and the ones who need the most protection in our society, people are killing them, and it's a right in America, and people see it as a choice. I don't think it's as much as people don't care about the unborn. I think it's that people don't know what's actually going on. I'm running across America to teach people about the value of life and tell them that life matters. And the whole goal is to take people who are pro-life and activate them into the movement and teach them how they can make a difference. So every day, my goal is to run about 10 to 15 miles. I'll push myself if the only problem is that I'm tired, but if there's an injury, then I'll always try to back it off and wait and try to do different types of therapy to be able to continue on. People see the dedication that it takes to run, and then they ask why are you willing to do that? I'm able to answer them because life matters and because life has value. Day to day in the project, my heart and my focus is definitely the excitement that I get to spread the pro-life message. I love speaking at schools to younger children because they don't even know what abortion is a lot of times, and they don't even know what's going on in our nation. Another group I love to speak to are young adults, because so many times they don't know how to get involved, they don't know what to do about being pro-life, and I love teaching them how to be activated. And I also love speaking in churches because it's a whole mixture of different ages of people, and you get to tell them about abortion, but they already know what it is, so I'm not as much teaching them, I'm just trying to inspire them to want to make a difference and to want to get involved. There definitely have been a lot of difficulties, but knowing that God is going to use this project is the biggest encouragement. And even when the miles feel smaller, the speaking engagements are sparse, I know that God has an end, and I know God has a purpose to this project, and it makes every single step of the 3,000 miles worth it. Every single step matters. Every single mile matters. And that's similar to ending abortion. The day in, day out that seems so small and so minute is what's going to actually bring you to the end. Always continue pushing and pursuing truth and righteousness, then abortion will come to an end. I think God loves the pro-life movement. I think God loves what we're doing and what we're fighting for. In Psalms 82:4 it says, defend the weak and the needy. And I can't think of any person on earth who is more weak and who is more needy than the unborn. I think the number one thing people can do in America today is pray. Seek God on the behalf of the unborn children and pray that abortion will be overturned and that we'll be able to see Roe v. Wade come to an end. I believe that slowly America is beginning to wake up to what abortion actually is. God has shown himself so faithful in every step so far, and I know that in the second half he's going to do exactly the same thing and continue to show himself faithful to us. I do believe Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned, and I do believe abortion will end in America.
Thank you so much for having me on ProLifeCon. I'm so excited to get to be here this morning. I want to begin by sharing a little story about the run, and that video gave you kind of a good idea of what it was like running across America. But I want to share with you one of the times that was one of the hardest for me. It was actually when I was in the deserts of Southern California. And when people think about running, they think about leaving their front door and going outside and running for a little bit and then going back home, having a warm shower and being able to sleep in their own bed at night. But as we ran across America, we were completely homeless, and we actually lived in the back of our van. And when we were in the deserts of Southern California, it was very difficult getting out, running through these deep desert sands and not knowing how far I'd be able to make it that day. And as I ran through the sands of California, I was running next to the interstate, and the hills going up were so steep that I was afraid I was going to fall down on the interstate and not be able to make it up those hills. And as we went down those same hills as I was running, again it was so steep that I was afraid I was going to fall on my face as I continued to run. But I kept praying and asking God to give me strength to be able to continue through these deserts and to be able to continue through these hardships of this run across America. As I came down one of those extremely steep slopes, I was being cut by cactus all over my legs as I went, and I actually ended up tripping, and I stumbled and fell into a ditch. And I looked down at my legs, and they were bleeding from the cactus cuts, and my hands were bleeding from the fall. And I remember thinking, as tears began to fall down my face, and thinking, how did I get here? I'm in California, all by myself in a ditch in the desert covered in blood. God, how did I get here? Am I making a difference? Am I actually affecting the pro-life movement as I run across America? Well, it all started, as the movie said, because God called me to run across America. And when he called me, I knew he'd make a way. And no matter how many deserts I had to cross, and no matter how many mountain chains I had to climb, I knew God would enable me to make it across America. And the whole reason is because life matters. Life in the womb has value that I can't even express with words, but I think all of us kind of understand how important life in the womb is. As I ran across America, I want to encourage you that I found so much hope. Even in the hardships, even in the people who said no to the pro-life message, I still found so much hope. There are people all across America who are so excited to get involved in the pro-life movement. Don't be discouraged when you get some no's. Don't be discouraged about the times of desert in your life. Know that God is going to make a way, and know that God has people in places where you'll be that will be activated by what you do today. No matter what God has called you to, don't be afraid to go through the deserts. Don't be afraid to go through the hardships that might come with a pro-life movement. As I ran across America, one of my main platforms was actually speaking. I tried to speak to anywhere that would open their doors, whether it was a church, a youth group, a pregnancy center, anywhere that would allow me to speak so that I could share the pro-life message. Sometimes the groups were as small as 2 to 3 people, but I knew whoever God had brought to hear me speak was who God needed in those moments to be able to spread the pro-life message. All they need is to be activated. So our goal was to first go into these places and educate them what abortion actually is and what actually happens when people talk about abortion. Our next goal was to take people, now that they're educated, and activate them, make them pro-life in their own towns and their own cities. But how do you do that? Well, we actually ended up meeting with local pregnancy centers and local elected representatives, and we asked them, what do you need? What pro-life help could we give you to enable you to better help people in the pro-life movement in your specific community? And they would give us a list. So from formula to diapers, or from volunteers to yard signs for campaigns, we got exactly what they needed, and we were able to plug people in to the pro-life movement right where we were. So I want to encourage you that right where you are, you can get involved. Another amazing way that we were able to affect people with the pro-life message was through our social media, our website, and our use of videos. People who you can't physically speak to and physically reach can get involved in the pro-life message from a beautiful photo that you post, and with a beautiful quote about how important it is to be involved in the pro-life movement. You can make a difference, and you can get involved. Now that we're finished with the pro-life movement, we're going to continue speaking and educating people about the importance of life. I know we all have deserts in life that we face, and as we approach the 45th anniversary of Roe v. Wade, I am grateful to say that we have hope. It is hope that is flooding the streets of Washington as we all march today. Thank you so much for having me on ProLifeCon.
Anna, how can people connect with you online?
Our website is Project If, so projectif.life, and then all of our social media handles are Project If Life, so Project IF Life.
Excellent. Thank you so much. What great passion, commitment, encouragement to see somebody who's willing to test the entire tensile strength of not just their body, but their soul to commit to something for the sake that one person might be saved through this movement. We're going to go back to the mall now, and we're going to check in with our Patrina Mosley with FRC Action. Oh, and I see you have a crowd. So now it looks like we've got some people gathered. I'm so excited. Can you tell me what you're hearing and what you're seeing out there in the mall? Welcome to all of you.
Yes, let me just tell you, this is an exciting event, and I told you, it started up quiet, but there were going to be people coming in droves. So right here behind me, I have a group of amazing students here who are passionate about life right here. And so, you know what? Where are you guys from? Phoenix. Phoenix? Arizona. Okay, who else? Tennessee. Okay, we have Phoenix, Arizona, and Tennessee. So how early did you guys get here?
We got here at 2 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday.
Oh boy, that's not a lot of sleep. What about you guys?
Johnson City, Tennessee!
Woo! How early did you get here?
We got here about 30 minutes ago.
Yes, and you're ready, right?
We want to be here early. We want to be by the stage. We want to scream. We want to get loud, and we want to support life.
Amen. All right, so let me actually ask a couple questions. That many people are saying that, you know what, it's my body, my choice. It's a woman's right. And they're claiming to speak for all women, especially for this generation. But it looks like you guys are different. So why are you all pro-life?
Because I think the value of someone's life isn't determined by other people. Their value is never lowered based off where they are in life.
What about you?
I believe every life has value. No one has the right to take life.
This is the pro-life generation. What can I say? Just a couple of blocks away, in 1973, a decision was decided for abortion on demand. But 45 years later, the American people are saying no. So we are so excited to be here with these wonderful group of people, and it's just only going to get bigger. So Sarah, back to you.
Patrina, thank you. That excitement is contagious. So we're looking forward to joining everybody out there to march later today. But thanks so much for the update. For those of you watching online, we're going to take a brief intermission to give everybody here a chance to resettle and get a little rest. And you can join us again back on our Facebook page and our website a little around 10 o'clock or so. So stay tuned. Welcome back to FRC's 13th Annual Digital ProLifeCon Action Summit. We're glad that you've rejoined us. Hope everyone's refreshed. We are next going to have a social media panel led by our own Bryn Crispin, who is our social media manager, and she'll discuss ways so that we can optimize our reach on social media in the pro-life movement. So, Bryn?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you all for coming today. Thanks for everyone watching online. I'm very excited about this panel. This is a topic that's I'm very passionate about, and I'm hoping that we can really shed light on these tools to help you all be digital activists. Social media is a very powerful tool. It's something that can easily lift people up or tear people down. So it's very important as pro-life activists that we learn how to use this tool that we've been given very well. And so we'll be discussing just different ways that we can use this tool. We may have some time for questions at the end, so be thinking of those throughout. But I'm happy to be joined by two fellow social media activists and experts with me. I have Lindsay Fifield here from the Heritage Foundation. She's the social media manager there. And Andrew Moore is the digital and creative director for Susan B. Anthony List. So thank you both for joining us.
So excited.
Thanks for having us.
Andrew, I'll start with you. I know you were born and raised in New Zealand, which is where your awesome accent comes from.
Thank you.
You've been part of the pro-life movement first over there and now over here, so for quite a while. What's a social media tool that you have found to be most effective?
Well, the tool that I would have to say is the most effective overall for my purposes is Twitter. I find that we are able to, you know, for my group, Susan B. Anthony List, we're able to activate our supporters, and they're able to engage directly with the legislators, and the legislators really are checking their Twitter feeds, you know, very regularly. I understand, you know, when they get out of a committee meeting, for instance, they'll pull up their phone and have a look at what's happening on Twitter, and so it's really good. And you know, you've got the phone call, you've got the email, but the thing with Twitter is it's public record. You can't dispute how many people are taking action on a certain issue. So I really like that element about it as well. Yeah.
And you know, as I said, social media is a very powerful tool. It's something that's very changing. And some of us, like we said, we both have been in our jobs for each 2 years now. So we've seen those changes, and especially this last year in 2017, we saw a lot of changes with Facebook's algorithm, Twitter introducing some new policies. So Lindsay, can you talk about just some of the changes that you've seen in Facebook, and how can we, as social media activists, be aware of those changes?
Yeah, absolutely, and you're absolutely right. We have seen a lot of changes, especially across all social platforms, but especially with Facebook. And I think as much as it's easy to get discouraged about those things, especially because, you know, whenever there's a change, whenever there's something that we're used to, you know, it gets a little bit uncomfortable. But I think it's really important for us to stay positive, not get discouraged or worry about the changes, and just kind of adapt to them. And so what we've been doing at Heritage, we've adapted and started doing more video. I think video is really important, because then you have a chance to go out on the street. We have Genevieve Wood at the Heritage Foundation who does that for us. And she actually goes out, and you know, we can actually talk one-on-one to people on the street. I think that's a great way to get through the algorithmic changes that they've been making that kind of do keyword searches or that kind of suppression. You can just, you know, you're turning on a Facebook Live, you reach your audience directly. I think the biggest, most encouraging change that Facebook has made is it's no longer just the power of the publishers and the organizations. They've actually really put the power back to the individual. And so when we share things and we actually engage with content in our social media feeds and across Facebook, it actually has more power than even the Heritage Foundation. So when we really try to encourage our followers to share our posts, like our posts, but also have their own conversations about it, so that the reach is actually even more powerful than ours.
Definitely. Yeah, and as Ryan Bomberger said earlier today, it's a way for us as conservatives to kind of circumvent mainstream media sometimes, that if they're not reporting a story that we think is very important, or if they're suppressing something that we think is because of the message itself, it's very important for us to have a tool that we can use to kind of still be able to tell people about it and get the story out there. So Andrew, I know, so Twitter, there have been a few stories this past year of Twitter either suppressing content or blocking content. Marsha Blackburn was with us earlier this morning, and she actually had a Twitter ad blocked last year for her Planned Parenthood investigations. And they restored that a day later after pro-lifers kind of lashed out and said, hey, this isn't fair. So what can we do as pro-life activists if we feel like our content is being suppressed unfairly?
Yeah, well, one thing we can do is we can work together to you know, get all instances of Twitter censorship and make sure, as Lindsay was saying earlier, before this actually, to take screenshots of instances where they are being unfair in that way. And so we need to do that, and we need to work together and compile these together, and then present it to Twitter or whatever social media network it is, and also get it in front of the media as well. And I think it really is going to be so much more effective if it's not just one group or just one activist, but several working together. It's going to give that story a lot more legs. Yeah.
Yeah, cool things that we were able to watch with Marsha Blackburn is that, you know, all these pro-life groups on Twitter came together and said, we're all together, we want this message to be heard. you're not blocking it for truly sensitive material. It was simply because it was a pro-life message. And so it's pretty awesome to see all of us coming together. So keep that in mind. If you feel like your message is being suppressed, that you're not alone, and there are a band of people who are willing to help you fight for that message.
Twitter sees that it's super counterintuitive for them to suppress this content now, because she probably got more attention because they'd suppressed her tweets than they would have gotten with the ad, because Twitter ads are terrible. So, so your tweets can organically do a lot more than a paid ad anyway.
I would just jump in there and say not all Twitter ads are terrible.
Ours are great.
There's a particular Twitter ad format that we've had really good success with, which is the conversation ad format. And the really great thing I find with that is that you're putting out an ad, and instead of just seeing the ad or clicking on a link to a website, people are actually engaging directly on Twitter, and that's what you're paying for. So we've had good success, putting out ads saying, contact your representative and tell him to vote on this, or to stop blocking, a Supreme Court nominee or something like this. And so it's a really good way to generate targeted, focused engagements exactly where you want them, and directly on Twitter, and without having to kind of send people to some external web page and then they fill out a form and then it goes back to Twitter. So yeah, we really like that. Yeah.
And not to, to go back to what we were saying earlier about suppression on Twitter, I think it's really important not just to take the screenshots, but also, send them to people like us. If you feel like your reach isn't large and you feel you're not crazy, this is really happening. We see it every day. We see content that's suppressed. I'm sure you guys have seen maybe examples if you scroll through your Twitter feed and you see in replies to main brand tweets, tweets that say, this content's not available, or click to show this content because it's sensitive content. 9 times out of 10, if you actually click that, you think, oh, I don't want to click that because it's going to be something crude. 9 times out of 10, when I've clicked those comments, it's nothing crude. It's just regular conservatives engaging in content. It's really happening. We're not crazy. And so take screenshots of things like that. Send them to us if you feel like, and I can show you afterwards if we have time maybe, or people can just come up to us after, and I can show you guys in the settings too how you can kind of prevent them from suppressing your content, but also from suppressing you from seeing other people's content as well.
When we say send them to us, one of the easiest way to do that is just direct message on Twitter. So just follow our accounts and direct message us, and we check those daily, so we'll see your message. Yeah.
Be gentle. Yeah.
And one thing, if your message isn't getting blocked or suppressed, another thing that could happen is it could easily get distorted. And we see this a lot in the pro-life movement, whether it's the mainstream media or pro-abortion activists. A lot of times they take our words and they can twist them, and suddenly it's national news and someone's saying something that they never said, or it's very easily misconceived in a different way. So one of the biggest things, I know, Lindsay, this is what you're passionate about, is just the truth about Planned Parenthood. And a lot of people say they really do great things for women, or another one is pro-lifers only care about humans after they're born. Or before they're born, before they're born, but not after they're born. So what's the way that we can kind of combat those stereotypes, but in a loving and truthful way?
Oh, the fact is, and we all know this, the arguments from pro-choicers wither on the vine in the face of the truth, and we're armed with the truth. And so I think you just put those facts out there, especially when it comes to Planned Parenthood. Our facts come from their annual report, so we're not making this stuff up. This is in their own reports, and so presenting those facts to people, it really does surprise people. What we've seen, especially in polling now, is that a majority of Americans support abortion restrictions. Even if they consider themselves pro-choice, they actually have pro-life views. They just don't know it because there is just such a confluence of misinformation out there. And so we have a great opportunity, and we should be excited about it. We shouldn't be mean-spirited when we're coming out with these facts. We should absolutely just be confident putting them out there and saying, look, these are the facts. If you want to argue them or debate them or discuss them, that's great, but this is from their own report. We're not distorting these numbers. These are the numbers that they're putting out there. And I think just being confident in that, it really helps your argument. You'll notice that they kind of shift their arguments as you present them with facts, because once you've kill one of their arguments, they have to keep moving on. And so I think online it's easy to kind of, especially, you know, for just not on our brands, I wouldn't do this from like the Heritage brand, but from a personal perspective, when you're in a conversation, you know, to keep things moving. But it's important to just kind of, you know, step back, not let them, you know, get you rattled, and just stay optimistic and stay positive and just stand in the truth of the facts.
Andrew, did you have anything to add?
Well, I don't know if it's really on topic, but you're talking about, you know, discussions and comment threads on social media. I think, okay, so, you know, when I first kind of got into the pro-life movement, I was very heavily into having very long debates on social media with people who disagreed with me. And then after a while I realized it was pretty fruitless, and so I pretty much completely stopped doing it. However, I've recently come to a kind of conclusion, and I think there is value to it, but but it should be focused on the existing threads of, you know, prominent individuals or our pro-life heroes in Congress, because just for an example, you know, I'll see a tweet from Speaker Ryan, and he'll tweet something out, you know, saying he's pro-life and, you know, he supports the right to life for unborn babies. The number of comments, just hateful, vitriolic comments directed at him, you know, on a range of subjects, not just abortion, people just unloading on them, just thousands of them. And I have to say, there's not enough, you know, pushback from pro-lifers on these comment threads. So I think if you really want to kind of satisfy that desire to get into, you know, endless debates online, there's a good place to do it, because because these legislators, honestly, they only have so much political capital, and they're really sticking their necks out and representing us when they say these things, you know, on social media. And so it's our responsibility, frankly, to back them up when they stick their necks out. So.
That's such a great point.
That is a good point.
We do usually go after the figures on the left that are being dishonest, but we never really do think, hey, we should go, and that's such a great point.
Yeah.
If I may just add a little bit more on them, quite passionate about this, but believe it or not, you know, the men and women on Capitol Hill, they're human beings just like us, and they have emotions just like us, and you know, if they feel confident that when they speak up on whatever platform it is, that there will be their friends and allies standing behind them and echoing them and backing them up and saying, you know, the congressman is correct, and here's a study that I can post here, because maybe the congressman or his staffers don't have time to add that additional research, but that's I think a very key role that we can play.
And they need a lot of encouragement. So that is another thing that Twitter is very helpful for, is that you can just use their handle, and they'll, maybe not them themselves, but their staff will see that they're getting support, and it is very encouraging. It does make a difference.
Coming from staffers, we can say we really like seeing those nice comments, because we see a lot of not nice comments every day, so please do.
Yeah, and Andrew mentioned, you know, a tactic of arguing with people on social media, debating people, can be your tactic if you feel like that is, you're really getting somewhere, but if not, there are a lot of other ways that you can push the message out there in a loving and a compassionate way. And two things that really play in our favor are science and technology. And social media has done a great way of just highlighting new developments in science and technology. We have ultrasounds, we have there's this project in London called the iFind project, and they're using MRI scans overlapped with ultrasounds to show babies' movement in very detailed pictures. And one of them was posted last year and went viral immediately. It was a little 20-week-old baby jumping and pulling on the umbilical cord, and just things that very easily humanize an unborn baby. So just simply finding those things and sharing it on Instagram or on Twitter is very helpful. Did you guys have anything to add just on new developments that you're excited about or just looking forward to using in this coming year?
Want to take that, or you want me to?
Yeah. Well, I'll just say something very briefly, which in terms of the proliferation of ultrasound imagery on social media, I think the most important thing, I mean, it's been happening for, the proliferation of ultrasound imagery has been happening, I don't know, for 20 years or something, you know, with people putting it on their fridge. But now more and more, you know, as soon as a couple is pregnant and willing to share about the pregnancy, bam, up it goes on Facebook. And so I think that people are starting to identify with unborn children better and earlier on than ever before. So I think that's incredibly valuable.
I think that's why we see such a powerful passion in the younger generation coming up, because I think, well, I'm only 32, but the older generations that didn't have access to these accurate, I mean, we can see in the sonograms down to their facial features. It's so powerful. And so that's all that they've ever known. And, you know, these advances just keep getting stronger and stronger. So yeah, absolutely. And I think to your point about the way that people talk about these issues online, Instagram is such a powerful platform for that reason, because you don't even have to have an overtly pro-life message. You don't have to have like, hey, here's me at the March for Life. It can just be you sharing images of your children before they're born, or, you know, sharing a heartfelt story about, you know, a time that you were worried or concerned, or, you know, just, you know, your personal story being shared is more powerful in some ways than just being an activist, especially if you're really trying to change hearts and minds of people who, like I said earlier, think that they're pro-choice but don't realize they actually have a lot of pro-life views, and those are the people that we have the biggest opportunity to reach. And so just being an optimistic witness to those people is so important.
And it is kind of cool to see even celebrities like Beyonce or the HGTV star Joanna Gaines shared that she announced she was pregnant by showing an Instagram video of her tiny little baby's heartbeat and just saying, how cool is this? And just those little things are not, you know, they're not combative, they're not in your face, they're just, look at this scientific research that shows this is a human being. So that's good. So I would encourage you all to just keep that in mind as you're sharing things. You don't have to do it in a debate or a combative way, but just sharing new research is extremely helpful. One thing I'd like to talk about a little bit, just going off of how this new science and technology is influencing the pro-life movement. We've really seen an increase in the younger generation who I think is taking this research and it's really resonating. And just having those images available has really helped open the eyes of the younger generation, and we're now saying the younger generation is the most pro-life that it's ever been, and so that is extremely exciting. How do you think social media is playing a role into kind of convincing the younger generation to be pro-life? Andrew, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, I think it's got a lot to do with what we were talking about before, which is just it's being talked about a lot more and in more relatable terms. You know, yeah, that's probably all I have on that one.
And they're just so optimistic. They're so passionate, and I think that's the thing, that they're younger. They're not cynical like us old people, and so I think that they actually are the best messengers for this. So it's great for them.
And real quick, we just have a minute left. What is one thing in 2018 that people watching at home can look forward to, and you would encourage them to either keep doing or do something new to advance the pro-life movement on social media this year?
Oh, goodness.
Well, I've got one idea, which is it can be easy to just kind of have tunnel vision on the abortion issue and or other socially conservative issues, and that's all you talk about on your social media. And I think people, your friends on social media are going to tune out, and they will just, and of course the algorithm will notice that these people are tuning out and not engaging or not pausing as they scroll to engage with your content, so they're going to see less and less of it. So it's really important to intersperse your more serious posts with, I think humor is great, and just pop culture if you can stand it, and just things like this to keep people engaged. Yeah, be human, be relatable, exactly, because you will have so much more influence on your Facebook friends, and I'm talking primarily about Facebook, but it's probably true for other social networks, if people can relate to you before you hit them with the hard truth. So that's something I try to do, and I've seen pretty good success, and I'd encourage others to as well. Yeah.
How about you, Lindsay?
That's exactly, I mean, just be optimistic. There's no reason for us. It's easy to be mean-spirited when they're being mean-spirited when other people are attacking you, but just be an optimistic, happy person, be a happy warrior. We have a lot to be excited about. The science and facts are on our side. Don't be discouraged, and when you're talking to other people, just always maintain a good, positive attitude, and I think that's how we win.
Awesome. Yeah, and the pro-life movement, like we'll hear a lot today, is founded in love and compassion. So keep that in mind as you're messaging everything on your social media sites. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll send it back to Sarah.
Thanks, all of you. Great insights. While we do a little scene change here in our studio, what a great reminder that all of you who are watching and listening online have a platform, and it's up to you to determine how you're going to use that platform. And the anonymity of social media can sometimes be a real magnet for people to be cruel. But again, the message of the pro-life movement itself is really dedicated to the worth and the intrinsic value of every individual. And when you transmit that message, if you do it in love, you will definitely garner more individuals, more support, more questions, and that's when a dialogue begins. It's my pleasure to introduce our next guest, Leah Jacobson, who is the founder of the Guiding Star Project. She has been working with mothers and young people since the year 2000. She is the mother of 6, God bless you, and a certified international lactation consultant. She has a special interest in helping young women transition into motherhood, and her passion for women's health care has led her to open 6 of these Guiding Star Project centers in 6 different states. Her work is really reframing the dialogue about what it means to support authentic women's health care. So welcome today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Like she said, I am a mom. I have 6 children. That's mostly what I do. Mostly what I do is I mother my 6 children. My husband Josh is a nurse practitioner working in internal medicine, and I have worked in labor and delivery as a lactation consultant, and now I have a private practice where I do home visits and I work with women who have just given birth in that immediate postpartum period. Like you said, I've been working since about 2000 with young people. I initially started out in campus ministry at the University of Minnesota Duluth, and I started with conversations with young women about their bodies, about their health. I was married and had my first child in 2004. At that time, I was, I think, the only young woman on the college campus with a baby. And so I think every college girl within a 5-mile radius that found herself unexpectedly pregnant found me. And so those conversations began very organically. I didn't set out to get involved in pro-life work. It kind of happened just very naturally as I realized that they were not accessing the resources effectively. They were not aware of the resources in their community. And what I think was the most shocking thing to me is that they really did not understand their body at all. They did not understand their fertility. They did not understand the process of pregnancy, what was healthy, what was normal, and they were scared. They were scared about what they didn't know. And so it began as a bit of a journey with me talking with these students who are friends of mine, and it grew and it blossomed into this kind of vision of, why can't we fix women's health care? Why can't we make women's health care more accessible, less scary to the young women who are experiencing their first pregnancies? And so Guiding Star was born out of that need and out of that necessity. So what we're really hoping to do with Guiding Star is address the need. We believe in a model of holistic women's health care. We believe that health care for women should focus on our natural bodies. We should be looking at women's bodies and saying, you were created good, you were created wonderfully. It is not our goal to suppress and alter and change your natural fertility. We don't want to suppress and destroy your pregnancy. Your pregnancy is an absolute miracle. The number of biological things that had to go exactly right for you to be pregnant at this moment is a miracle. And for us to just casually toss that aside and say, well, it's your choice. You don't have to be pregnant anymore. But think about what just happened. You are pregnant, and that is miraculous, the things that just went right. And then to walk alongside her through that process as she makes her birthing decisions, her birth choices. We do believe that women have choices. They have the choice to decide who's their care provider and where they want to deliver and the type of delivery they want. And I mean, and they have the choice, you know, to breastfeed or not breastfeed, but we want to be alongside them on that journey to help them make decisions that are in the best interest of their health and their baby's health. And so we use what's called holistic women's health care when we talk about the care in our centers. Holistic women's health care, it focuses on the women's health throughout their entire lifespan. And so our centers are not, they're not pregnancy centers. They're licensed medical facilities with licensed doctors, midwives, doulas, care practitioners, nurse practitioners. we believe in the highest quality of care for women. Women deserve to have good health care that teaches them the reality and the truth of their body from a very young age. And so these girls can be coming into our centers prior to starting starting puberty. They could be coming in before they ever have their first menstrual cycles, forming a relationship, and then they could be there through their pregnancy, through their birth, their breastfeeding, postpartum period, all the way up through menopause and beyond. Our centers are really for women from the point they are conceived to the point where they would leave this planet. And it's not just for women, honestly. We focus on women's health care, but we have to recognize that women exist within relationships. That is really the role and like the heart of what it means to be a woman. We are always in relationship with others. If it's our spouse, our child, our parents, our siblings, like we are built for relationship. And so our centers are focused on providing health care around women's health care and all of her relationships. And so some of our centers will work with, they provide some family practice care. They'll work with spouses if there's infertility problems. We can work with the husbands to see if that's the issue there. We really want to look at women holistically as where does she exist in her her community? What is her whole women's health care picture? What does she really need? Not just her body, but her mind, her soul, every aspect of her. Our healthcare is really focused on not reducing women to just their reproductive parts. I think that the biggest failure of the last few waves of feminism and the women's movement has been that women have allowed organizations and healthcare providers and major organizations, World Health Organizations even, to tell us what it means to be a healthy woman. And that definition is not in sync with what our bodies would naturally do. That definition, it demands the right to destroy our fertility and our pregnancies, and they call it health. And we absolutely reject that. We are so much more than our reproductive organs. We are so much more than just needing contraceptive pills thrown at us. And so our centers are really working very hard to redefine the narrative of women's healthcare in our country. We think it's time to retake what healthcare should be for women. So currently, we actually have 7. We just announced our 7th center, and it's our first East Coast center. And it's here, Guiding Star, Wilmington, Delaware. So that's very close to this area. So this is where we're all at in the country right now. We're looking to expand everywhere. Just some really quick things. We've had quite a bit of growth in the last couple of years. Social media has really been where we've grown. And so we appreciate so much the role of the internet to allow us to get our standards and our definitions of women's healthcare out there. We know it's resonating. We know it's resonating with healthcare providers all across the country. So social media has been a wonderful platform for us. So if you want to connect with us on social media, if you're interested in starting this kind of a women's healthcare clinic or center in your area, please find us on Facebook. We are, let me see if I can find our information here. Yeah, I think this is it right here. We do a lot of interaction on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram a little bit, so please find us. We have a great women's healthcare conversation. We just really like to challenge people to consider what it means to be pro-life with women's health. So thank you.
Thank you so much. How encouraging to hear somebody taking on a different definition, a more holistic, a more other-centered definition of healthcare that takes into account not only how fearfully and wonderfully we're created, but how fearfully and wonderfully those inside us, the ones that we have the privilege to carry, are created as well. So we have next for you today, Missy Stone. For Students for Life of America. She is involved with the pro-life movement and has been since the age of 14 when she volunteered with Rock for Life. She became instantly passionate about the issue of abortion, and as a Hispanic woman became particularly touched by the impact it had on the Latino community and decided she needed to do something about it. She is Students for Life of America's official spokesperson on the ground, so it's my pleasure to welcome Missy to the stage today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. I'm a little short, so I'll try to stand up tall. So when I was the National Field Director for Students for Life, I worked with a lot of students across the nation on a personal level. And one of my favorite moments was when a student leader told me that she got a Facebook message from a young lady that she hadn't spoken to in years. They had gone to high school together, but they were now in college. And the young lady had said she was pregnant and she was scared. And she told her that based on our student leaders' social media accounts, she could tell that she was pro-life. And the quote was, "And aren't pro-life people supposed to help?" So the student leader built a relationship with this young lady and took her to the pregnancy center, got the ultrasound, and walked her through the journey of being pregnant, and ultimately she chose life, all because of the student leader's online presence. So this is just one example of so many stories that we see and hear that show the power of online activism and social media, not only to create and engage fellow activists, but even go as far as saving lives. So as pro-life organizations, we have to have a successful pro-life presence. So Students for Life America is the nation's largest pro-life youth organization. So our online practices are especially crucial to our success because young people are online. They live online. I'm the same. When I say young people, I'm included in this. We check our phones an average of 150 times per day. And it's become a way of life for most teenagers and college students. They say that 66% of millennials check their phones even before getting out of bed, which I know that I do, and I know a lot of you guys probably are guilty of that also. So this is a key area that we recognize we have to utilize if we're going to reach young people with the pro-life message and then challenge them to get involved in the greatest human rights and justice over time. And we've seen firsthand what happens when pro-life organizations provide content that students want to share. Lives are saved. But in recent past, people have called internet activism slacktivism. But what we're seeing now is that revolutions are starting on the internet. What used to be a way of doing as little as possible, click and share and I'm done, I've done my duty, is actually creating movements where young people are now getting involved in social justice issues and things going on. For example, the Women's March started online, the Me Too campaign, and even a lot of our Students for Life groups are now coming to the March for Life and engaging on higher levels because of the activism and things that we post of what students are doing and giving them opportunities. But it all goes back to, it started with the online content. And so it's not slacktivism anymore, it's the beginning of the movements. So what is our online effort? Simply put, we are creating a youth movement. And we're doing this three main ways. Being where they are, speaking their language, and informing them of what is happening, which gives them opportunities to be involved. And this is fueling students' excitement and passion for abolishing abortion. So first, we are where they are. We are on every single social media platform, sharing the pro-life message and talking about what's going on in our nation. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. Our president, Kristen, has even found a way to utilize Pinterest, like recipes to cook while you're abolishing abortion. And our approach changes as our online culture changes. Our message never changes. Obviously, we stick to the truth about abortion and how it is impacting the pro-life generation, but our approach does. We make a concerted effort to use the apps that young people are using and get our content in front of their faces in familiar places. And this is something that we have to be vigilant about because social media is always changing. New apps are coming out, old apps are becoming irrelevant, and so staying on top of where are the young people now. It used to be Facebook, but now it's Snapchat and Instagram, and being aware of those changes and moving with it. If we want to create a movement, we have to put our message where they're going to see it. I know that's such a simple thing, but just being conscious that Snapchat is one of the biggest social media platforms right now, so we need to be using that and putting our message right in front of them and making it as easy as possible, in front of their faces, on their phones, before they get out of bed. So, secondly, we speak their language. So we are where they are, but we're also using language that's very relevant. We are edgy, which not everyone appreciates, but that's fine. The students love it. The young people love it. We use the current slang and the language that pushes the envelope, but it's how young people communicate. One of our furthest reaching social media campaigns was Planned Parenthood, go fund yourself. And then also, we are anti-abortion AF. So it's, you know, how many pro-life organizations do you know that did a campaign called WTF, Where's the Freedom? So we use this kind of language because it shows that we're with the times. Being pro-life isn't something of the past or old school, which is kind of a misconception that people think, oh, you're pro-life because you're old school. No, we are current, and it's normal to be anti-abortion. Our movement is here, and it's now, and we're using the similar language because it makes us relatable. Talking about abortion can seem really daunting to some young people, and I mean, even everyone, but specifically to young people. And this kind of brings it to their level and invites people into the conversation that may not have come otherwise. Our movement has a language, and it just has to be one that young people understand. So we are very conscious of how we're presenting our message and what we're saying so that they can take that information and easily understand it. And third, and most importantly, we tell them what is going on and how they can get involved. It's not enough to just be present on social media platforms. We have to inform people what's happening and give them ways to be involved. A big part of that is our daily Pro-Life Gen News videos, which is my main role now. These are short videos aimed at keeping people informed on what's going on in the abortion industry and the pro-life movement. The key word is short, because our attention spans are short, but still informative. Most of our Pro-Life Gen News videos deal with pop culture, Planned Parenthood, because that's what young people are interested in, and that's, you know, what is going on their campuses. We touch on politics and highlight amazing things other pro-life organizations are doing also, but it's just a quick, here's what's happening, like California trying to pass the bill saying that pregnancy centers have to promote abortion, or hey, Planned Parenthood is doing this crazy thing on a campus over here. This way, students are informed of what's going on in their area, and also it gives them an opportunity to engage. Like, oh, Planned Parenthood is doing this in our state. No thanks. We're going to do something about that, and therefore we have our movement. And I've had a lot of people thank me for these videos, saying that they've helped educate them on what's going on in the world. And so I'm just going to show you one. I don't know where we're showing it. Oh, there it is. This is just one example of the Pro-Life Gen News.
Bad Mom Mila Kunis pranks for Planned Parenthood. Hey everyone, I'm Missy Stone with Students for Life, and this is your Pro-Life Gen News. That 70s show star Mila Kunis recently revealed a hilarious prank she's been playing on Vice President Mike Pence. Kunis said she set up an anonymous monthly donation in Mike Pence's name to Planned Parenthood. Every month, a donation is processed, and Planned Parenthood sends a thank you letter to Mike Pence. Kunis saw it as a way of reminding the vice president that some women disagree with his platform. First of all, I know plenty of women, including myself, who agree with his pro-life views, and we're proud to have a vice president who wants to actually protect and care for women and children. Second of all, Mike Pence is a busy guy. The letters Planned Parenthood sends him probably never reach his desk. And Pence doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's just waiting to read the next donor letter from Planned Parenthood or to even really care this is happening. But if Mila wants to waste her money on a corrupt abortion empire and a petty attempt to insult the vice president, go right ahead. And that's what caught her eye today. I'm Missy Stone with Students for Life. See you tomorrow.
So we put those out daily, but it's just quick, relatable, and informative. Just one final thought when it comes to posting things and being online. We can't be afraid of the comment section or Facebook debates. We share the truth unapologetically. If people want to leave rude comments, which they usually do on these, go right ahead. If they want to argue it out, it's fine. We're going to be honest and forthcoming about abortion and Planned Parenthood, and we can't let Facebook bullies keep us from sharing the truth. So help us continue to build the pro-life generation movement, produce relevant, relatable content on platforms that young people use, keep them informed, and give them opportunities to engage. We don't want them to just stay behind their computers, and we can't either, but this is at least one step to creating a movement. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Missy. We appreciate all of your very practical, very helpful, and very encouraging tactics. Go out, share that content. We know that this is a completely new dialogue on the issue of the sanctity of life, and that social media is really having an incredible impact. And if you have an opportunity to be effective enough to actually get silenced by the Twitter or YouTube gods, you're doing a good job. Prior to his current position as the senator from Montana and the co-chair of the Senate's Value Action Team, Senator Steve Daines was elected as Montana's United States Representative in 2012. He was then ranked most effective first-term member in 2013 and again in 2014, so this is a gentleman who gets things done. We are very glad to welcome him. He offered a pro-life amendment to the Senate's tax reform bill that would have let unborn children qualify for the tax child credit. So we are so glad to welcome him today. Welcome, Senator.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, thank you. It's not often that I get to be in Washington, D.C. With my sweet wife, Cindy, but she came here for the march today. So, Cindy, if you'd raise your hand back there and say hi, we're glad to have her here. You know, I just heard from a very savvy pro-life advocate here that said, if you really want to know a politician's true pro-life views, ask their spouse where they're at on life. And that's pretty wise advice, frankly. And if you were to chat with Cindy, you'd understand we share a very common passion here. In fact, as we were driving over here, we spent some time over at Susan B. Anthony this morning at a coffee. And we were driving over here looking at the streets full of our marchers. And Cindy said, these are our people here today in the streets of Washington, D.C. It's greatly encouraging, isn't it? I want to thank Tony Perkins as well and all the work that FRC does and for putting this on today. And the many, many activists who are out there across the country engaged in this very important day in the summit today. Thousands of you are out there listening, engaged, and that's encouraging. I can tell you to those of us up here who are fighting this battle with you every day on Capitol Hill. I will apologize for my wear today. It's normally a suit and tie town. I can tell you, this is a Montana formal what I'm wearing right now. This is called a Montana sport coat. I'm just telling you that. And I have my Wrangler jeans and my boots. That's how we do it in Montana. But as soon as we leave this summit here, we'll be headed to be part of the march today. We'll be on the stage there as the president speaks to thousands of activists here, and then we'll be marching ourselves. So we're here to do that today. I know there's other work going on the Hill at the moment as well as important, so I may have to run back to the office, throw my tie on to go for a vote this afternoon. We'll see what happens. Cindy and I are the parents of 4 children. We've been married 31 years. We have 2 boys, we have 2 girls. And I remember when our son David, who's now 28 years old, when he was born. I remember it vividly. Cindy remembers it even more vividly than I do. And but I remember taking David back for his well baby checks. Remember those hard times, the first-time parent when they're getting their shots, the pain that baby is feeling. It's much more painful for the parents as they're getting those shots, but it's one of those hard things you do. By the time you get to child 2, 3, and 4, it's old hat. But that first one in particular, you remember that. And it's only fitting as we think about the pain a child has, and we think about the pain it inflicts on the parents. Somebody told us you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. That's really true. 3 of your 4 kids can be doing really, really well. And if one is struggling, that's where mom and dad's kind of emotions and thoughts focus on the one child that might be having a hard time. And I think that's true too when taking those babies in and if they're in pain, or any child's in pain, you feel the pain as a parent. And I'm sharing this story because some of the high ground we're fighting on right now is for the pain-capable bill that would restrict abortions after 20 weeks. You know, there's a reason we've drawn the line here with 20 weeks. Now, we believe that life begins at conception. When we think about a battle we can fight on the hill here and win, at 20 weeks, a baby feels pain. And to think that a baby is feeling tremendous pain in late-term abortions, we believe provides a sound legal argument as we think about overturning Roe v. Wade at some point, that this is good ground to fight on for ultimately overturning Roe v. Wade. That is why we just invoked what we call Rule 14 in the U.S. Senate. In fact, I was presiding over the Senate this week one night when we invoked what we call Rule 14, which takes that pain-capable bill and puts it on the floor of the U.S. Senate for a vote, most likely next week. We'll wait and see where this is all sequenced, but we wanted to get a vote on pain-capable that coincided with the time that all of our marchers are here in the streets of Washington, D.C., fighting for the unborn. Cindy and I, before getting involved in politics, I was in business for 28 years. My first job out of college was with Procter & Gamble. In fact, I'm the only chemical engineer on Capitol Hill. And most chemies are too smart to run for Congress, but I happened to take the wrong exit, and here I am. And one of our assignments was over to China. And so we loaded up at that time. David, I shared it earlier with you, he was about 18 months old, and our second child, Annie, was just a new baby. And we moved to Guangzhou in the early 90s, really pioneering the operations for Procter & Gamble back in those days. And I remember we would spend time with other American families and the families from around the world, expats living over there. We'd go to orphanages, and we'd hold these babies, oftentimes disabled babies, that were not even receiving human touch. And we'd take them out of the cribs, we'd hold them, and I'll tell you, it built a conscience within that orphanage because they knew, oh, the Americans are coming here on Saturday. And guess what? Things started to clean up. These babies started getting better care. But these babies were getting human touch, fighting for those who had life and were not being treated very well. But I want to tell you 2 stories about something else we saw in China in that time. I remember I was working, I had a large organization, and many of them were Chinese, and one of my key managers came into me one day and said, Steve, I've got to go to the police department this afternoon. And I said, oh, is there something wrong? He says, well, not really. I said, well, you're going to the police department. He said, well, my wife is pregnant, and we didn't have permission from the authorities to get pregnant. And we fear right now that they may terminate the pregnancy. At that moment, I looked at my employee, he was one of my key managers, and I said, we will do all we need to do to ensure we protect that baby, assuming you want to have that baby, right? He says, we do. So I said, how can I help you? He says, can you give me a case of shampoo? So we were in the business of making brands like Head & Shoulders, Vidal Sassoon, Pantene, Crest toothpaste, Pampers diapers, and so forth. And I gave my employee a case of shampoo. He went downtown and met with the authorities. And that saved the life of that baby. And they have a beautiful daughter. Another day I was at work, and the phone rang, and Cindy called me. And she said, we just had twin baby girls dropped off on our doorstep. I said, twin baby girls? How old are they? Well, they're just virtually infants. And there was a mother who had one baby who then got pregnant again, and of course with one baby policy. In desperation, she dropped them off on our porch. To make a long story short, we battled for a couple of years, and there was a Procter & Gamble family that adopted those 2 babies. And they're now two wonderful young women that live now in the United States as United States citizens, saving one life at a time. Let me just close by saying this. When we want to understand the heart of God, we have to look no further than the actions and life of Jesus. And I'm reminded in Luke, we all know the story when Mary runs into Elizabeth, they're cousins, and Elizabeth is pregnant with John the Baptist. And in Luke 1, verse 41, I'll read this. Starting in verse 39, at that time Mary got ready and hurried to a town. I like to say she hurried. Kind of interesting. She hurried. She hurried to a town. That feels like our life. We're always hurrying to the next event. She hurried to a town in the hill country of Judea, where she entered Zechariah's home, and she greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. That's just one of the most amazing passages, I think, in Scripture. And those of us who believe in life and are strong pro-life advocates, we love that passage. The baby leapt in her womb, the joy of hearing Mary's voice. But fast forward to chapter 18, verses 15 and 16. And this is the story that we're all familiar with when there were parents bringing their children to Jesus to be touched, to have a blessing. And it says this in verse 15 in chapter 18 of Luke. People were also bringing babies to Jesus for him to place his hands on them. And when the disciples saw this, they rebuked them, rebuking the parents. Like, hey, stay away. This guy's busy. I mean, can you imagine Jesus' calendar on his iPhone? I mean, it would have been full, right? What's been going on? I'm sure John and Luke were probably, they were tweeting and so forth, trying to keep the social media. And I love Missy's comments, too, about what we're doing right now to engage this next generation of relevance and so forth. It says, but Jesus called the children to him because he rebuked them. And he said, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. Here's the point I want to make. The word in the original language that Luke used for the children here in Luke 18 is the precise word that was used when it described the baby that leapt John the Baptist in Elizabeth's womb. Made no distinction between the little children coming to Jesus for a blessing and the baby in Elizabeth's womb. Same word. Yesterday I was speaking on the floor of the United States Senate about the pain-capable bill. If you have your smartphone, I would challenge you to just go to Google and Google 20 weeks. Don't put baby on it, just Google 20 weeks. That's all you have to put in, 20 space weeks. Look what comes up. So I shared that on the floor of the U.S. Senate. Now, I can't bring my smartphone on the floor of the U.S. Senate. So I had my staff put together what you see if you call up google.com in the search box. We put in 20 weeks. And then we brought the image that comes up. Do you see that little baby there? What a baby looks like at 20 weeks? I would challenge those of you who are listening today, let's start a movement here of hashtag 20 weeks. And get people around the nation Googling 20 weeks. Because you see, when you look at that, it takes away, I think, anybody who says that's just some kind of piece of flesh. If that is not a baby, then tell me what is. And let's let the technology and the images speak for themselves. And that's why we're continuing to win this argument on life. Frankly, technology is helping us in that regard. What Missy shared earlier is very, very powerful. So thank you for standing with us in this battle. And Lindsey Graham, Senator Graham's going to get his own introduction, but I tell you, here's the author of the pain-capable bill. It's only fitting. we teed it up here for Lindsay to be here to speak about that. But it's wonderful to have a partner like Lindsay and many other senators here who are fighting with you and standing with you and with those who don't have a voice in this battle for life. Thanks so much, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Senator Daines. How encouraging to hear something about the pro-life movement, not just from a senator's perspective, but from a dad's perspective and a Christian's perspective. So we're very, very excited that he could come today. And I'm also very excited about my next guest, who needs no introduction, but I get to provide one anyway. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina is a tireless pro-life lawmaker. He was the driving force behind the 2004 Unborn Victims of Violence Act, landmark legislation that first recognized an unborn child as a legal victim in federal law, and he is the lead sponsor, as Senator Daines just told us, of the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act in the Senate. He has numerous accomplishments, too lengthy to list today so as to be respectful of his time, but it is my great pleasure to introduce to you the senior senator from South Carolina.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to do an interview here with Tony in a moment, but to the Family Research Council, you matter. So here's your marching orders, no pun intended. We're going to start with the idea that majorities matter. There would be no vote forthcoming on the pain-capable bill if Mitch McConnell were not the majority leader. I know you're frustrated with us at times, and we get frustrated with ourselves. But when we have the debate on the floor of the United States Senate, and when we ask people to vote, it will be a result of all the efforts you put in over the years to get us the majorities. My goal, I don't think we're going to get 60, but we're going to get over 50. And one day we'll get 60 plus. How does that day arrive? By you doing what Steve Daines told you to do, which is to tell your friends and your neighbors what we're talking about here. 54% of pro-choice people, when they understand our bill, are for it. How can that be? It just makes a lot of sense. So what are we trying to accomplish here? At 20 weeks in the birthing process, a physician cannot operate on the unborn child without providing anesthesia. Why is that? Medical science tells us to operate on the baby to save their life at 20 weeks. You should provide anesthesia because they're so pain sensitive. The question for the country is it okay to have abortion on demand? No. You know how many countries allow abortion on demand at 20 weeks? 7. Do you know who's in that group? China and Iran. I want out. Do you want out? Okay. We're better people than that. So there's 7 nations on the entire planet that allow abortion on demand at 20 weeks, the 5th month of the pregnancy. And there's a reason for that. It's not the right thing to do. If you look at a medical encyclopedia as they advise young parents how to interact with the unborn child, along this time they say you need to sing to your baby because they can begin to recognize your voice. If we should sing to the baby, maybe we shouldn't have abortion on demand. So here's the point of the bill. Under Roe v. Wade, the only time that the government has a compelling interest to protect the unborn child is after what? Medical viability. I would argue that that concept has changed from 1973 to now. There are actually examples of people surviving birth at 20 weeks. But we're not asking for that to be the reason we protect the unborn. The reason that we're advancing here is that a child feels excruciating pain in the 5th month. And the state, the government, has an interest in protecting an unborn child from experiencing excruciating pain. That's a different legal theory than Roe v. Wade. It will be the first time, if we're successful, to grant governments at the state and federal level the ability to protect the unborn apart from medical viability. This is a very big deal. 20 states have already enacted a version of the law that I am introducing. because of people like you. The closer you get to 33, the more likely we are to get to 60 up here. Remember the partial birth abortion debate? Over a decade of trying and trying and trying till we eventually broke through. The Unborn to Victims of Violence Act that I offered in 2004 took years. The Lacey Peterson case, where she was murdered by her husband, and under California law, Scott Peterson was charged with 2 crimes, the mother and the child. So that became law at the federal level because of people like you. Partial birth abortion passed because of people like you. The Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act will pass because of people like you. And the reason it will pass is there's people who are not activists that will side with you when they hear what you're telling them. So you've got a challenge, and I have a challenge, to educate the public about what we're trying to do. We're trying to do a good thing, not a bad thing. We're trying to get out of a club of 7 nations. We're trying to be like the rest of the world, not the outlier. We're trying to say, as the American people, we do not want abortion on demand in the 5th month of the pregnancy. Why? Because that does not make us a better nation. We don't want to be a nation that allows abortion on demand when science tells us that the baby feels excruciating pain and doctors tell us, I can save that baby's life, but I'm going to put them under anesthesia because I don't want to hurt the baby in the effort of saving their life. It won't be long. It won't be this year, but it won't be long. Our day is coming. This is the centerpiece of the pro-life movement. And this is a problem. This affects thousands, not hundreds. So Tony and the Family Research Council, and to all those of you who are listening, this is worthy of our time and our effort. And if you want to make America great again, I'm stealing somebody else's slogan. Let's pass this bill. Thank you.
How encouraging to hear from someone who has worked so tirelessly for the pro-life cause, and this is a stake in the ground. We understand what this legislation represents, so we are praying and we are storming heaven's doors that the passage is good for this year and that Senator Graham's work on the behalf of those who cannot speak for themselves will be fruitful. Our next guest is David Scotton. We'll be watching a short video before he speaks, but let me give you a little bit of background about David. His adoption story is the subject of a new documentary film entitled I Lived on Parker Avenue. The film was an official 2017 selection for the DocuSlate New Filmmakers Film Festival in Los Angeles and has been endorsed by adoption groups across the country, including the National Council for Adoption. He has been a keynote speaker at more than 75 events. He has traveled across the country showing and telling his story, and it's my privilege to welcome David to the stage today.
Tomorrow, I'm gonna hop on a train and I will meet my birth parents for the first time. This has been 19 years in the making, and I'm extremely nervous.
I want to see what he looks like in person, his voice, his smile, my hug I've been waiting for.
Kind of wondered, you know, does he hate us? Yeah, I think it's caused a lot of depression from time to time.
The reality is David was seconds, literally, from not being here. It's kind of a bittersweet because I wanted him.
We're gonna all fill in this missing piece of the puzzle that has been in all 3 of our lives.
It's gonna be an overwhelming experience.
I'm nervous, but I'm really excited.
I don't want to live my life not ever knowing what might have been. So that's our trailer. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is David Scotton, and I'm a second-year law student at Louisiana State University, back home in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I am the subject of a film called I Lived on Parker Avenue. And this story is why I'm here today. Back in 1993, Melissa and Brian were 18 years old. They were seniors in high school. They weren't married, they didn't have any money saved, and Melissa was pregnant. And so they easily decided that the simple solution would be abortion. So they decided to go into the abortion clinic, but to get into the clinic, they had to pass the usual pro-life protesters that were praying for them and talking to them from the sidewalk. And one woman from the sidewalk told Melissa that her baby had 10 fingers and 10 toes. And Melissa still proceeded inside the clinic, but as she sat down on the abortion doctor's table, ready to abort her child, she thought back to what the lady outside the clinic had told her and realized that her baby was real, that her baby was special, and that her baby was meant for someone special. And so she left and decided to choose the adoption option. And that's how I'm able to be here today. I was that child 24 years ago. And that's my story, and this film has been a huge part of my identity for the past 5 years. I Lived on Parker Avenue is the real-life reunion. The real-life reunion of my biological family and me. I got to thank the woman who left the clinic and chose adoption. I got to see what their lives are like. My family got to thank them. My parents got to thank them for the gift of their only child. My grandparents got to thank them for the gift of their only grandchild. And so for the past 5 years, I've been traveling the country sharing the adoption message, sharing the truth of adoption, the fact that it's not always positive. There's some negative in adoption, right? And that's just the reality that we face with the adoption option. But in the end, adoption is the only reason that I was given life. And that's what we're trying to do with I Lived on Parker Avenue. So it is an incredible honor to follow U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, to be here at the Family Research Council, and to be able to share this message with each and every one of you. We've used online activism to share this message. We could have gone the Netflix route, we could have gone a theater route, and that's not what we want to do. I don't want to be a celebrity, ever. What we want to do is share the message to as many people as possible. And so we decided to go online with it. So 6 months ago, maybe 8 months ago, I don't know at this point, we announced the film for the first time. And so we are running on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, all that good stuff. And we are actively screening in high schools across the country. We were in Colorado last week, California the week before that, and now we're in Washington, D.C. And the feedback has been amazing. Through online activism, we specifically have targeted people on the fence about the abortion and adoption issue, and people who have also expressed interest in adoption. And so Facebook gave us a pool of 2 million people to send this message to. And so we've fundraised around Louisiana, even outside of Louisiana, to be able to do this. And together with the support and prayers of so many people, this project has been a labor of love. And we go online March 8th, 2018 for free for everyone to see. So how you can help us today is by sharing our trailer on Facebook. We have over 360,000 trailer views, and that's what we're doing going forward. And so we're going to continue to do screenings. And March 8th, 2018, please share the full film. It's only 30 minutes. And with your help and with your prayers, of course, we're going to make an impact on this culture, on the power of adoption. So thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you so much for all you do for this cause. I'm behind it 110%. And with all of our help, we're going to make an impact on adoption. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, David. How encouraging to hear from somebody who has walked that path. So lest you hear stories that adoption doesn't work and there are no babies waiting to be adopted, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a real life story of how there are happily ever afters. I'm going to present an individual to you who is another one on this great lineup that virtually needs no introduction, but she has a very impressive CV. Lila Rose founded Live Action in 2008 at the age of 15 with a simple goal: show people what abortion was really about. With the help of a few friends, she was able to capture undercover video evidence of employees at a Planned Parenthood clinic and other abortion facilities, and they told her to lie about her age. Live Action has since expanded their work to include creation of compelling educational media, human interest storytelling, national conversations on the rights of the preborn, and continued investigation. As a result of Lila's tireless leadership, the pro-life movement has over 143 million video views and over 2 million people reached daily through Live Action's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest accounts. Those are pretty impressive numbers. Their social media efforts have become so effective that, what do you know, Twitter banned them. Again, she's doing a great job. Lila and her organization are an inspiring example of how creativity, persistence, and the truth are incredible weapons on this battlefield. Lila, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. It's awesome to be here with all of you today. Some great activists I know in the group here, and some wonderful speakers you've heard from this morning who are doing great work for the most vulnerable among us, for our preborn brothers and sisters. It's also very sobering to be here today because we are leading up, as you know, to the anniversary of the Supreme Court decision that wrongly claimed that children in the womb do not have the right to life, and that somehow propped up abortion, this act of violence, as somehow good for women and some part of women's health. And so we're here to mourn the 45th anniversary of Roe v. Wade and to mourn the 60 million children lives who have lost their lives, and the women and the fathers, the mothers and the fathers who have been wounded by this, and the survivors. As a millennial and representing many in the millennial movement and Generation Z, we did not know a world without abortion. We grew up in a world with abortion, and we've never known a world besides that. And that means that many of us have missing siblings, missing nieces, missing nephews, missing cousins, missing classmates. People are missing all over our country. And we're here, of course, to talk about social media and the importance of media to transform hearts and minds, but we have to remember our context first. The context that we are living in a world, in a country right now, that is deeply wounded. Wounded because of abortion and wounded because of a larger cultural onslaught of problems that we face. Mental health challenges, challenges of confusion about sexuality, confusion about identity, issues of broken families and broken relationships. We are facing many challenges, and that is the environment in which we are doing our outreach. That's the environment in which we're trying to reach people, especially people that don't agree, because this movement is about drawing people in with love and with the truth, drawing people in who are not already part of our club, but expanding the club, expanding the group. And as we do that, I want to first put before you that we need to make sure we know who we're trying to reach, that we're trying to reach people that are from many different backgrounds, many different labels, political labels and otherwise, many different life experiences, and a lot of wounds that our country is facing. I'm really delighted that I get to be a part of Live Action and the amazing team. Joanna here is our head of strategic partnership. She's here with me today, and we're going to be marching, of course, with all of you in just a little bit. But I'm delighted because we get to see every day and we get to create every day the kind of content, the kind of messages, the videos, the stories that are transformative. Because the idea, again, is to bring people in. It's to strengthen the current activists and get them more riled up and more passionate. But it's just as importantly to reach people who maybe aren't thinking about this issue every day, who are maybe out there in their schools or in their churches or not in church at all whatsoever, in another movement, another social justice movement, who are not necessarily identified with the pro-life cause. The good news is that amongst millennials and those in Generation Z, the people that are over a third of the voting bloc in this country, people that are the biggest demographic to be facing abortion decisions, there's a great, I believe, tenderness and openness to the pro-life cause in the hearts of young people. That's because we care about social justice, we care about the weak, and we grew up again in that kind of wounded climate where we understand what suffering is. We don't want other people to experience suffering, and we have a deep sense of empathy. So that's the first thing that Live Action does in all of our messaging and all of our work, is we try to tell the stories of what's actually happening to both the child and to the woman, about what actually happens during an abortion. What is an abortion? It's been this sterilized, medicalized term, sanitized by those that are abortion advocates, where they try to paint it as something positive, paint it as something good for women. But what actually happens during an abortion? And telling that story along with the story of what are women actually experiencing. When women walk into an abortion facility, what are they actually experiencing? Are they walking in there because they woke up and they said, great, I get to have an abortion today? No. Women don't walk into abortion facilities because they feel powerful. They're feeling powerless. They're feeling like they might even be pressured into that decision. It's their last resort. They have education, they have work, they have other things that are crowding out their time, their resources, and they feel like they have to do this. So it's actually the ultimate position of disempowerment for a woman to offer her body to an abortionist, and the body of a child, turning herself, against her own flesh and blood. So we need to tell those stories, the story of the child, the story of the woman, and then those larger stories about what's happening in our country, in families, how it's hurting men, how it's hurting our law system, our legal system is corrupt because of abortion. And those stories, when we create them for an online audience, so we're talking a lot of visual media. That's the second point, is beyond telling the stories, is packaging the stories. We want to make sure we understand the platforms out there, all of the major social media platforms that are out there, and the different ways that they curate content, or the algorithms that are out there that maybe push some content aside and allow other content to get more eyes, how to use advertising on the different forums, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, although we don't advertise on Twitter, as you know, because we got blocked recently. That's another story for another time. But how we use these different platforms, Facebook, Pinterest, whatever it might be, of course, online, to reach people. And packaging is really important, and what I want to share with you here in a moment is we want to make sure when we're presenting, for example, the story of what abortion is, that we're doing it in a way that's actually going to reach people and get behind their defenses. So for example, Live Action, throughout our education resources, sometimes uses pictures of abortion victims, because that's an actual representation of what happens to the child during an abortion. But we found the resistance psychologically and online when people are given that content without expecting it. So we've created content using medical animations of what happens during each abortion procedure, the 4 most common abortion procedures in this country. And we had a former abortionist briefly tell his story and then narrate each of these 4 most prevalent abortion procedures. And we used medical animations to reveal what is happening during the abortion procedure to the child, and then the development of the embryo or the preborn child, and then of course what happens to the woman afterwards. What are the negative impacts that she might experience physically, emotionally, and otherwise. These videos, when we first started to release them, quickly gained traction, and now are at over 86 million views online through Facebook and YouTube. So we think, from what we can understand, they're the most viral pro-life videos of their kind to actually reach people. And the millions of responses we get back and the thousands upon thousands of comments are people saying, I didn't know, and thank you for showing me, and now, before I was pro-choice, but now I have to be pro-life. And I want to show a brief video with you of folks that we've interviewed who are talking about that video of what happens during an abortion procedure. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is you're going to notice that the folks that we're interviewing, and these are random people across the West Coast. I'm from California. If you want to find out where to find the hardest group to message abortion to correctly and the pro-life cause, go live in Berkeley, California, which is where I live. I live in Berkeley. I love Berkeley. I'm from the Bay Area, but go to Seattle, go to San Francisco, go to Los Angeles, and we're in New York as well, Miami. Go to the places that are not necessarily in maybe the friend group we have. Go to other groups of people and present the message. Find ways to present it in a way that connects with people, in a way that makes them feel and make them think about about this in a new way. So you're going to see these videos shown to random people across the West Coast and see their reactions to having their first encounter visually with what happens to the preborn child during an abortion and how it affects women. We can show the video now.
What do you think about abortion?
I'm like hella liberal, so it's like obviously I'm pro-abortion.
There are times when you do need abortion and it's up to that person and their rights and what they want to do.
It's our body, it's our decision, right?
If you're young, it's probably a good thing. If you want to go to college, it's hard with a baby in college.
And would you identify as pro-life, pro-choice, or neither?
Pro-choice, for sure.
Oh my God.
I had no idea this is how abortion takes place, right? Looking at that video and the way it was performed, yeah, it's an eye-opener. So, no, I don't think any kid, any baby, any infant, I mean, any fetus should go through that. No.
I mean, it seems just in general, anytime you have to kill something, it's inhumane.
So are you saying this is a human life?
I mean, it's definitely present, you know? I mean, yeah, I guess, like, even if you can't afford to, if someone can take care of these babies, I guess, like, don't abort them, you know?
So the videos that you guys showed me has changed my mind. Yes, circumstances, it still makes it hard, but because of the video, I think I kind of have, like, a better idea.
And I felt bothered by it. Kind of, like, had a little change of mind of being middle of the road to saying maybe I would not be for abortion, no matter what, no matter what the circumstances are.
I had no idea the process was like that. But it seems like they're more humane when they put down animals.
And one word, your thoughts on what you saw?
It's actually really emotional.
And do you think after watching this video that you would still maybe support a law that would allow for exceptions in cases of rape or incest?
And this, I just think, yeah, I think that abortion is wrong in all cases. And maybe there should not be any laws with any exceptions.
After especially seeing this video, I realized, no, like, abortion is really wrong. Yeah, really, really wrong, wow.
Would you say that this video changed your mind at all about abortion and your
Absolutely, absolutely. I've never seen it in detail like this. I will show this to my daughter, that this is how they abort children.
It's scary to see, and I hope I will never have to do that, or I will never do that from my point now.
So you changed your mind, it sounds like, from...
Yeah, well, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I could never say, like, not do an abortion for 100%, but probably 99%, yeah.
Before a law is passed, I think they should include videos such as the video that he showed us. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people would change their mind based on it.
There's so many other options apart from abortion, and I know it sucks and like the consequences and how it happened and why you might want an abortion, but there's always another option, and you just got to suck it up because it's a life.
So along with telling the story, of course, they learn for the first time, many of them, what happens during an abortion, and telling investigations of abortion facilities and exposing the abuse of what abortion actually is and finding the best ways to do that. We also have to tell the good stories. We have to highlight the work of pregnancy care workers, people in healthcare doing amazing work for women. We have to highlight good things happening politically. We have to tell the stories of incredible women who are choosing life for their children despite disabilities, despite health challenges, despite fears, despite rape, despite horrible circumstances. And that's our methodology online, is we tell those stories. We tell the truth about what abortion is, what it does to the child and the woman, and then we tell the truth about how beautiful and amazing life is, and we highlight the heroes. And that inspirational message we found resonates with millions of people, and we're going to keep it up until we've reached everybody and beyond in this country, and we've transformed public opinion, because that's the end game here. We have to change the law, we have to work in politics, but until we transform the culture, until we transform people's feelings and their thoughts, we move people on this, we're not going to have the victory. But we are going to have the victory because in our hearts, people, I believe, deep down are pro-life. We need to awaken it. And that's what we're doing every day online and beyond, is reaching people, getting them to feel, getting them to think, and transforming how they feel and think about abortion and human life. Thank you so much.
Lila, we're going to have you stay right there. We'll bring up our fearless leader, Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, to present this year's Digital Pioneer Award.
Well, let me tell you, this is one of the bright lights on the cultural horizon of our country, is how the upcoming generations have taken on ownership of the right to life with a passion that really we've not seen. In no way to discount the work that's been done, but this is exciting for me to see what is happening among our young people all across America, from every demographic. And Lila is really, I think, at the tip of the spear of that. And her story, which we heard a little bit about in the introduction, you can read more about it in my book, where I profiled Lila in No Fear because of her fearless leadership on this issue. We're at a point, and some of the older pro-lifers that are in the same category as me will have an appreciation for the fact that we're very close to defunding Planned Parenthood. And that's a huge issue. 45 years after Roe v. Wade, and millions of tax dollars going to this organization that is the largest abortion provider in America and exporting abortion around the world. They're on the verge, if Congress can get enough fearlessness and courage to get us there. And a lot of it goes right back to the work that Lila did with Live Action, exposing Planned Parenthood, which David and others have built upon her pioneering work. And so today, I am privileged to give the FRC Digital Pro-Life Pioneer Award to Lila Rose. And I just want to read this to you. In recognition of your groundbreaking work in digital pro-life activism, your faithfulness in visionary leadership, and your commitment to protect the very smallest and weakest in our society. Together we grieve the lost lives, celebrate the lives protected, and cheerfully fight for generations yet unborn. Lila, congratulations.
Thank you, Tony. This legitimately belongs to my team because they do most of the work, and also to anybody out there that shares the content and gets it out before people, calls Congress. I mean, really, that is the heart of our movement, is all of you doing the activism and sharing the truth. So thank you all so much, and thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Lila. Thanks for being a role model.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thanks.
And folks, before I pitch it back over to Sarah, who's done a great job. Sarah, great job today. Hasn't she done a great job? I want to thank each and every one of you, those that have kind of come in and out here in Washington as a part of this, but those that have joined us across the country online. Thank you for being a part of this through the social media and the other digital and social media outreaches. Where you are, you can make a difference. And so I encourage you to explore, pray, and find out how you can stand for the unborn wherever you are within the realm of influence God has given you. So Sarah, thank you. I pitch it back over to you to wrap things up.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are really inspired. We are excited. I hope it's not just me, because I am ready to go home and tweet and share on Facebook and post to Instagram. This is so important, and it really is a message of love that we get to communicate. So I hope you guys are all inspired as well. Thanks to our special guests, thanks to our online audience, thanks to our live audience, and we hope you join us next year for the 14th Annual Family Research Council Digital Action Summit. Let's go march. See you soon.